So today, Matt and I are gonna break down everything you need to know about Spider-Man Brand New Day, and we're here to answer questions about Spider-Man movies, comics, video games, and animation. Matt, say hi to everyone.
Hello, thanks for having me back. How are you?
I'm doing good. Let us know in the comments if you can hear the both of us. This is Red Carpet Talk. Let's get into it. Um, Give me a second.
No worries.
We'll do first we'll get into non spoilers and later we'll move to non spoilers. So, generally speaking, um, generally speaking, what do you think this movie is about, like thematically?
Um, I think seeing good in people and believing in good in others. I think like it's very similar to Superman. That one was about being compassionate for people, and this one was about seeing other people's goodness and greatness.
Hmm. Okay, interesting. I feel like for me, the big thing. I mean, Spider-Man has always been a coming of age story, and specifically, we're moving away from high school into adulthood and him figuring out his identity as he transitions into adulthood. And I would also say sacrifice is another big theme of this movie without getting into
Mm-hmm.
spoilers. In No Way Home, we see him lose Aunt May. We see the spell with Doctor Strange, where basically Ned and MJ forget about him. We see him sacrifice MIT, which is his dream school. And yeah, so those are just some of my key takeaways. Anything else you want to add before we start talking about like different characters and performances?
We can move on to the characters and performances.
Okay. I mean, Tom Holland's the big one. Um, what do you want to say
Yeah.
about him?
Um, I think this was my favorite performance with him out of all four of his solo movies, and especially Infinity War and Endgame as well. As far as the Odyssey, like obviously I think he was much better in this than he was in the Odyssey, even though I think he was really good in that. But this is his bread and butter. He knows Spider-Man like the back of his hand, and this is just something that he'll do for the rest of his life if he wants to.
I was gonna
And
ask how you think this performance compares to other appearances in the MCU for Tom Holland as Spider-Man. Um, Technically, some people have said like the character first appears in Iron Man 2. That's been kind of retcon, the little kid
mhm.
that Tony saves. But like his first actual appearance, where it's Tom Holland playing him, is Captain America: Civil War, and which was nearly a decade ago, or yeah, about a decade ago.
Yeah, yeah. At this point, I think it was a little over a decade.
Yeah, it was 2016 exactly. So,
Hmm.
it's tricky since Infinity War is one of my favorite performances. So I need to think if this is up there with that. I think that's hands down my favorite performance in regards to like him appearing in another movie, but like solo movie, I need to think if this is my favorite performance of his or not.
Hmm.
Um, in this like movie, he's super hyper focused on like keeping his anonymity and I cannot say anonymous like an anonymity, and he's like protecting NYC from more street level crime. I think both of us are happy it's more focused on like a street level than like huge end of the world level stakes.
100%.
That was refreshing for both of us. In this movie, he's basically like dedicating his entire existence to being Spider-Man, but in that selflessness has like consequences on his personal life, and he's just basically watching his former friends move on without him, and he has like a lot of conflicted feelings about his friends because like it's heart versus mind basically. Like his heart wants his friends in his life still, but his mind is like with great power comes great responsibility, and I need to protect them.
Hmm.
And yeah, you see him struggling with all that in this movie. Um, But every version of like Spider-Man to some degree kind of struggles with work-life balance. So he's not the first that is dealing with that per se.
Hmm.
Um, Anything else you want to add before we get into some other characters?
He just was so excellent in this. Um, I'll save this. Actually, I was gonna bring something up, but I should probably save it for the spoiler talk.
Yeah, we will definitely. There's a lot to get into. We're gonna try to cover
Hmm.
as much as possible. But first, we're doing non spoilers in case you didn't hear earlier, and then we're gonna definitely dive into spoilers at the end. But right now, there will be clear indicator when it's spoiler talk on the screen. Right now, where it's normal. Um, let's talk about Zendaya. Um, so Ned and her both got into MIT, as seen in the last movie, and she has a new love interest that we see in the trailers. Um, Anything else I need to add about MJ?
Besides what's going on in her life, I think you got most of that covered. She's living with Ned. She has a new boyfriend. She's at MIT. It's basically everything that she's got going for her. Performance wise, same as Tom Holland. This was my favorite viewing of Zendaya in this one.
Yeah, a
And
lot of people are saying that's their favorite MJ performance.
they just gave her so much to do in this one versus the first three. And I to be honest, I didn't really feel their chemistry too like I don't want to say I didn't feel their chemistry because they had that, but like their love connection didn't feel as strong to me going from Far From Home to No Way Home. It just felt very like boom, it happens. Here it is. And I think because of that, they kind of made that MJ's only purpose to serve in the first three movies. But in this one, like, we see what she's been learning from MIT and how she's able to be useful. And she has a lot more emotional scenes than before. I just her volume in this one went up many levels for
I
me.
think it's tricky for me to say this is my favorite MJ performance because she is more of a traditional MJ in this movie than she
Hmm.
has been in the past, which is why. But like, if you're talking about the MJ that we've seen in the previous three movies, that MJ is more quirky, and we don't really get that as much in this film. However, like, is it a solid Zendaya performance? Yes. And it's like, is it the best performance she's given across movies? For sure. But is it the best MJ? That's where I debate because it's like, is it the best version of like what's been set up in the previous three movies? No. But is it the most traditional MJ? Technically, yeah.
Hmm. She definitely has grown up a lot coming
For
into
sure.
this one. Like you said, like she kind of lost that quirkiness a little bit and like that oddness that she had to
But it
her. Like
kind of makes
she's very,
sense for the
yeah.
story that's being told.
Hmm. Yeah, she seems very like grown up and not like she wasn't mellowed out before, but very calm and collected.
And then another addition people were excited about was John Barenthal as the Punisher. This is, I think, the first time he showed up in a movie officially.
Hmm.
And this is after the Disney Plus TV special that he did that was focused on the Punisher. And a lot of people are praising his dynamic with Peter Parker since Tom Holland and John Barenthal are friends in real life and they improvise certain scenes, so their chemistry is really solid. What did you think of their dynamic?
I loved their dynamic. I thought it was hilarious. it was it had like the perfect balance of very funny and very sad.
Yeah, a lot of people. I slightly disagree. I get why people are saying this, but a lot of people are saying it is a tonal shift from the other versions of Punisher we've seen. In some ways, yes, in other ways, no. For
Hmm.
me, at least. He is more jokey in here, but I think there are other ways where he is the same Punisher overall. Um,
I
besides,
agree.
yeah. besides this being like his first appearance in movies, this is the first time I think the battle van from the comics has popped up in the
Mm-hmm.
MCU, and also his first comic book appearance ever, I think, was in Amazing Spider-Man as
Mm-hmm.
well. So him showing up, his first movie being Spider-Man, it's very serendipitous for sure.
Yeah. Very full circle for him.
Another character we got was Mark Ruffalo. I mean, it's fitting for him to be in this, similar to Spider Man. They're both dealing with balancing dual identities, and identity is a big theme in this movie, so
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense. I mean, he's a founding member of the OG Avengers, and it, the rest we kind of all know. But the thing that's interesting that's set up in the trailers, so it's not too much of a spoiler, and it's appeared in the end of Shang-Chi. In the, I think there's a mid-credit scene, as well as the She-Hulk series, is he's wearing the inhibitor device, which is
Mm-hmm.
a big plot point without getting into spoilers in this movie. Um, Something interesting is I think the inhibitor says ASM 14, if I recall correctly, um, which is kind of like Amazing Spider Man 14. That's a little Easter egg for people, since I think that's the first time you see Spider Man and Hulk interact in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Before this, we previously saw Hulk as Smart Hulk in Endgame, and the last time we saw Savage Hulk before this movie is Infinity War. So, yeah,
Yeah. It has been a long time coming to get our traditional Hulk.
for sure. Apparently, like Smart Hulk is around like 7 foot and a half, and then like Savage Hulk is like 8.5 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So like people think like the physicality is the same, but it's not. Like he's larger when he is like Savage Hulk than he is when he's like Smart Hulk, and then yeah. Another character that returned to the MCU was Scorpion. Michael Mando was previously seen in Homecoming, and he there's the Rikers scene with Vulture, played by Michael Keaton in that movie. So people have been kind of wanting Michael Mando to return for a bit, and yeah, so that was another interesting character to see return. Those are basically like that's the general character breakdown without getting into spoilers. Since everyone else I don't want to talk about yet without because there's a lot of spoilers attached. But
Mm-hmm.
that's just some of my the general character stuff. Um, yeah. So, what did you think of like Dustin Daniel Cretton's directing in this
Oh,
movie?
incredible.
He,
It's like I was saying before too, like it there are so many times where it didn't even look like a Marvel movie. It didn't feel like one because they were very clearly on location. Very little green screen was used, and when it was used, it looked incredible. So he actually cared about making everything computer generated look nice. It was just what seeing his style in this, and I should have rewatched Shang-Chi before this too, just to get like a familiar feel with how he was with as a director because I didn't watch Wonder Man, but it it felt really different from how Shang-Chi looked. But again, I don't think I've seen that since it came out in theaters.
yeah, I haven't watched Shang-Chi in a while, but the thing I remember with Shang-Chi is his action sequences stood out to me compared to the rest of the MCU. He really knows how to do good stunt sequences, and
Hmm.
I really like the action in this movie. It's very character driven, but everything is still very grounded in reality. Um, so to me, that's kind of what he gives as a director. He seems to be a fan of the video games, and a lot of people are like, there's certain like movements that feel like it's like right out of the video games,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and the swinging sequences.
A lot of the finishing moves from the game were used in the action sequences in here too. So I remember seeing a video of him saying that people would come up to him when they were filming on set and they would record all their gameplay of when they were playing Spider-Man, and they would just ask him how they'd be able to pull off some of that stuff, and he seemed really into the stuff that people were bringing him. And Tom Holland's a fan of those games too.
So besides Dustin Daniel Cretton, we also have Chris McKenna and Eric Summers back. They've worked on all the Spider-Man movies so far. I feel like they delivered on the story. I feel like there's certain details that people are kind of like nitpicking, but for me, the more I thought about it, I feel like everything's very logical story-wise and makes sense for where we're at in the arc that they're telling with Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man. And then, of course, we got Kevin Feige, and who's produced all the MCU films. Amy Pascal is also a producer who's produced all the Spider-Man movies. And then Michael Giacchino did the score. For those not familiar, he's done a ton of Pixar scores. He's done Star Trek. He's done Jurassic World. He's done stuff in the MCU. He's done the Batman score. That's probably my favorite score of his.
Yeah, mine too.
So the Batman's your favorite score that he's done overall?
Yeah.
And then what did you think of his score in this movie?
I like this one a lot too. I like that they kept it familiar to the scores from the previous movies.
But slightly
but
tweaked.
Yeah, just with like his style splashed all over what was already established. And I loved that because I already like the scores that we had from the first three movies, and I like him a lot. So
yeah, I
that
think
style
Michael
plus him.
Giacchino, what I heard he did is like he made a few notes missing to indicate that like Peter's memory is missing. Or not Peter's memory, like
the memory of him.
Yeah, the memory of him is missing in a lot of people's minds. So it sounds the same but slightly different for that reason.
They did something similar for Avengers Endgame for the opening sequence with the score. They like cut out half of the orchestra because half of them are missing.
You're saying for the Marvel logo they did that specifically?
For the Avengers like title card.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So, what's your overall ranking of this franchise before we get into spoilers? Is this your favorite Spider-Man movie? Is there another one that's your favorite? How do you rank them overall?
And for the Tom Holland ones or all the
Tom Holland specifically.
This is for sure my favorite Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, like by a far distance. This one, number one, I would put No Way Home at number two, and Homecoming number three, Far From Home number four.
My favorite, I'm in the minority, is Homecoming, but since it is a coming of age like high school story that I liked more on this rewatch that I did right before watching Brand New Day. If you asked me before that rewatch, I don't know if that would have been my number one, but I really enjoyed it this time around. And then No Way Home and Brand New Day are both like an 8 out of 10 for me, but like personal taste wise, I like when Spider-Man's more street level than when it's like world level stakes. So because of that, I give like Brand New Day the edge slightly over No Way Home, and then Far From Home is my last personally.
Okay. You said Far From Home is your last, or No Way Home?
Yeah. No, last. Far From Home.
Yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of Far From Home.
I liked Far From Home more than most, but on this rewatch I just did, I didn't like it as much as I normally do.
Yeah, it's a lot better on the first viewing, but it doesn't hold up with rewatchability, in my opinion.
For me, the thing with Far From Home is it feels like those kinds of movies, like the Lizzie McGuire movie, or like the Cheetah Girls, or like there was a ton of straight to DVD Mary-Kate and Ashley movies where they like went to Europe, and I feel like so it makes sense for them to go to Europe, but like a lot of people are like kind of like shoo that like, and so it's not for everyone is the thing.
Hmm.
Um, are you cool if we get into spoilers now?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into okay. From now on, if there's a spoiler warning, so if people don't want spoilers, there's a clear warning on the screen.
Hmm.
So now that we can get more in depth, what do you think this movie is about? I mean, what do you think this movie is about thematically that we couldn't get into before? That's more
Um,
spoilery.
thematically, I don't know, like what would have been spoilery that we didn't cover beforehand.
Like,
Like
I
you
feel
wanna?
like the concept of like power, like, I feel like I can't talk about that without talking about Jean Grey. and
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah.
and like, since with great power comes great responsibility, and like, Aunt May very much shaped Peter, and we see that in the sequences where she shows up in this movie. I wasn't even expecting her to show up in this movie, to be honest. During the beginning portion of this movie, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, I really miss Marissa Tomei right now as Aunt May. And I haven't heard
Mhm.
anyone else really say that yet when talking about this movie, but me, I was definitely thinking that in my head. So when she did show up, I was like, thank God, kind of, since I felt her missing, and it bummed me out, to be honest. So it's
I
nice to
agree.
see her, even though it wasn't really her, and then to see how much she shaped Peter, and like how that responsibility could be used for good or for bad, and depending on like who, if you don't have the right support in your life or like the proper role models, how you can change significantly. And like just hearing like Jean Grey like hear what she needed to hear during those scenes from Aunt May was just so beautiful to see. um so yeah, that's some of, to me, I feel like what I wanted to talk about. That's a bit spoilery. And then
Mhm.
just the nuance of like good versus evil, since I feel like with Jean Grey, um, she seems like they're trying to present her as the villain, but it's really Tremel Tillman's character who's the villain.
Yeah.
Um, in damage control in general, which is really interesting. But and there's a lot of gray area with good versus evil in this movie. I would say more so than the previous um, Spider-Man movies. Well, I guess I would say there is some gray area with good versus evil in those movies, because you see like in No Way Home, Peter trying to like redeem all the villains because
Hmm.
of Aunt May, because Aunt May like taught him like everyone just could be theoretically redeemed. And like you do see there's some gray area, like Doc Ock, for instance. Even in like Spider-Man 2, there's some gray area with Doc Ock, is the thing. This movie, yeah, there's a lot of gray area. It's not like clear cut good versus evil, and I like the ambiguity with this movie. But I also was saying earlier, like it's a coming of age story, and I feel like with Jean Grey, she's also trying to figure out her identity as well. It's not just Peter.
Hmm. Yeah, she's a huge part of this. She is. She also is facing the big. Like you said, Peter's big with great power comes great responsibility. A lot of that did fall on Jean in this movie.
Yeah. Um, let's talk some spoilers with Tom Holland. Um, is there something that comes to your head first, or do you want me to go?
Um, really quick, his scene on the rooftop with Zendaya when Jean Grey was in her mind and when she kissed him and then he broke down to her, that I think was like my number one highlight of his performance. Right next to him explaining to MJ what had happened to his past girlfriend.
I'm trying to think my favorite scene of his in this movie. I can't really pinpoint a specific scene where I'm like that's my favorite thing in the movie for me, but well, I guess no, my favorite scene would probably be him realizing that he's both Peter and Spider-Man. It's
Yeah.
not like two separate entities. It's both, and like him taking off the mask and them seeing his face and then fighting the hand like that. That's
Mhm.
probably like my favorite scene of his in the movie. Um, Something I thought was interesting that they did with the MCU logo this time around is apparently they show you all the memories of Peter being erased,
Yes, I love that.
which I didn't catch on rewatch. I need to pay more attention to that since apparently they show you like him next to MJ or like Ned, and then 1 second he's there, the next he's not. Like throughout that MCU Studios logo intro, which I thought was interesting that they did that. Something that's also interesting to note is he's technically like still part of the Avengers in this movie or no?
Mm,
Because the new Avengers are a thing now, and like he's going to Yelena, asking her for help.
That's a good question because I would think so because there was never like an explanation of why he wasn't an Avenger anymore. Like he still was one in Far From Home because he was working with Nick Fury and Maria Hill. And then I can't remember how the line went in No Way Home when he was talking to Tobey Maguire. I forgot if he said I was an Avenger or I am an Avenger. And he was like, "That's great. What is that?" And then yeah, like you said, he has his connection to Yelena in this one still. So yeah.
Um, I think one big part of his arc in this movie is we see his selflessness like directly impact his health
Mhm.
to the point where he's in the hospital literally for it, which is crazy. I mean, part of that is Frank's fault, um, but yeah, that was crazy that they did that. So he compares himself to Peter too, with like the physical changes that he's like going through, like the black eyes, the aggression, the heightened senses, organic webs. Um, it's it's kind of a mashup of Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3 in that way.
Mhm.
Um, what did you think of like him going back to the organic like we did with the Toby movies?
I like that it served as like a big conflict in his story versus in the Toby movies that was just the basic of him getting his powers. But this I like that it served as like an entire evolution that Peter was challenging himself with throughout the movie. Like I thought that he was going to get rid of his web shooters like in the beginning or halfway through the movie and then totally transition into just using his organic. But I loved that he couldn't really get the hang of it at first, so he went back to just using his web shooters
Yeah,
and then he lost to them and then he was like, "All right, I guess I just got to go for it and do this."
it takes him a while to like fully embrace his mutations. It's something that I think is interesting in this movie is even though Jean Grey is introduced, they don't explicitly say the word X-Men or mutant. They say I think
Mhm.
mutation, but they don't say mutant. Um, Technically Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, and then I think apparently Namor is considered a mutant, which I didn't
Mhm.
realize. That's crazy to me. But anyway, so Peter, it takes him a while to like embrace that side of himself. And in the beginning, you do see him create the inhibitor for himself and another for Jean Grey. Something that's interesting about that is technically this concept has been part of the Spider Man movies all along. It's not new or specific to this movie. We literally just saw it in the previous movie with No Way Home with Dr. Ock. and even
Mhm.
like Electro's characters. And the inhibitor goes as far back as like Spider-Man 2 technically, if you consider that with Dr. Ock. But now it's like the concept of it has evolved, and now it might have like ramifications in the narrative beyond this movie in the future, and be like a significant plot point for a whole new saga of movies, which is crazy.
Mhm. Oh yeah, I think it's going to serve a big purpose in later X-Men movies. I think it's kind of important to tie Peter Parker to some sort of like depowering inhibitors because I could be wrong. I'm not totally sure, but I feel like it is a thing in the comics too, where the X-Men have this beef with Peter Parker because he was the one that created these inhibitors. And I don't know exactly if that did happen in the comics or if I just heard that that's what somebody thinks is going to happen in the future of the Marvel movies.
I think that's interesting to set up because it gives the saga more narrative weight. The way, like when Civil War happened, we saw the heroes were divided because they were turning on each other basically. But it felt
Mhm.
organic since you see because they're basically essentially fighting over people trying to have control or limit people's power sets to some degree, and like disagreements on how much the government should have control on that. I feel like in this saga we don't we haven't had that conflict as much, the multiverse saga compared to the Infinity Saga, and if that comes back in the Mutant Saga but in a new form, I will be very happy with it because I think it's an intriguing plot conflict, and I think Civil War is one of the stronger movies of the Infinity Saga. So if that's a
Mhm.
huge conflict in the future movies going forward, I'm here for it.
Yeah. I think too, what was I just gonna say? I lost my train of thought. Go ahead. I'll let you know if it comes back to me.
Um, well, going back to the X Men, Peter can like sense Jean Grey to some degree, but he's partially immune to her capabilities because at first she isn't able to get in to his head, but later on she is her powers are powerful enough where she is able to like access his head, and that's when we see the Aunt May scenes.
Hmm.
So it's interesting how her powers are so rapidly evolving, and this movie does a good job of setting up that she is good and she's technically fighting for a good cause. She's just trying to protect her sister. However, there is a darkness within her, which they're not just jumping straight into the Dark Phoenix storyline, but they are setting that storyline up by establishing her darkness early.
Yeah, I agree. Um, and I think it was okay for them to kind of start her off as, I guess, a villain because these days I feel um, like these days in society, people are more understanding of villains and kind of sympathize with them more. Like they're not villains aren't as hated as much as they used to be. So I think they thought they could get away with debuting her as a, troubled villain because as long as there's a reason to the madness, then I feel like a lot of viewers will support them to a certain degree. So I feel like having her potentially lead the X-Men in the future, it's not really going to leave a bad taste in the viewer's mouth that she was previously a villain.
I agree. However, I am already seeing more harsh feedback and criticism to her than I am with other people like Bucky or even Frank in this movie. Like, to me, Frank literally shot Peter by accident, and he's killed a ton of people, but then so many people are really like can't get over Jean's characterization in this movie, and
Yeah.
I wonder. I don't want to say like it's a misogynistic thing, but I do find it interesting. Like we've never had these combos with like Bucky before,
Mm-hmm.
and people are just like, "Oh, we love Bucky," like, and we're rooting for him, and same with Frank. Like it's just so interesting that more people seem to be having a harder time accepting Jean Grey, and like they seem to like it doesn't really sit well with some people that she didn't really have to deal with the ramifications of her actions, but I feel like that's what the future movies are for. That's why I
Yeah.
personally was okay with it. um,
Yeah, we've only seen her written for a Spider-Man movie. She hasn't been written for an X-Men movie yet. We haven't seen that. So to say that she's totally decharacterized, like I guess it's fair for people to think that, but I still think that there's some waiting to do before we
yeah,
get more of her.
I think part of the reason why um,
Sorry, that's my dog.
she doesn't deal with the ramifications as people claim with this movie is because Peter has the tendency of forgiving people and seeing the good in people, which is something that's established in No Way Home. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, if he didn't do that with this movie, it'd be so out of character for him. Since we literally just saw a whole movie of him doing that with, like, Green Goblin and giving him more chances than he probably should have been given, and, like, Doc Ock and Electro and Lizard. So, yeah, I to me, it made sense for him to see the good in her and for them to bond over the loss of loved ones, whether it be Jean with her sister or him with Aunt May.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you do, I think, see the loss of Aunt May get to him a lot, and also
Oh yeah.
him not having MJ and Ned in his life gets to him as well. And you do see him be more distant with people than we're used to seeing it in the previous movies.
Yeah, and it's our first time seeing him too without. I kind of
Um,
do hope that Marissa Tomei pops up for like one scene for the rest of however long Tom Holland wants to be Spider-Man for. Like that was a good purpose that she served in this movie, and I would like to see more of that going
but it has to
forward.
make sense narratively. Like this movie
Yes,
did it
yes,
so well.
very well.
That's the only time I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, as
Like
long as
I
it's not
obviously miss
overdone.
her. Yeah, for sure. Like it's something I just thought of right now that I didn't think of before is since she's missing in the previous movies we've seen him have like his AI assistant, I think Karen is her name,
Mm-hmm.
played by Jennifer Connelly in Homecoming, or Edith in like Far From Home. Like this movie, he has Evie, who's voiced by Naomi Watts, and that's like an artificial version of like a maternal figure, but it doesn't like it's not satisfying compared to like the real thing for him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm trying to think. Um, I don't know. He's very alone for a lot of this movie, and that's why it's so satisfying when you do see him be celebrated at the end of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Outside the hospital.
do you think that little kid is Miles, or are you like, no, it's just a random little kid?
Yeah, I think it was just a random little kid. Um,
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he
just
was
seeing
getting up.
Peter or having Peter like see the love for him or whatever served a nice little purpose. That kid being there.
Yeah, that was nice to see after he literally just got out of the hospital for a near fatal wound. Like that
Hmm.
was crazy. um,
And defending somebody that everybody was scared of right before.
yeah. Anything else you want to say before we get into like the other characters?
No, we can move on.
Okay. Let's talk about MJ. Um, her and well, basically, so it's like 4 years of college that in time that in years that Peter misses with MJ and Ned, and
Hmm.
then both of them live in an apartment in New York after graduation. Um, and it's so interesting because they play with the idea of does she remember him or does she not? And at first they tease you with like this um kind of like this facade of she kind of does remember him, but it turns out to be Jean Grey and
Hmm.
on the rooftop.
Oh, that was unforgivable.
I mean, Peter even calls it monstrous or is like you're a monster for doing that.
Hmm.
For me, as I was watching that scene, it felt a bit too quick. Like it didn't feel like realistic. That or not realistic, but I was just like, really, true love's kiss. That's really gonna be the resolution to all of this.
That's
And
what I
then it
was
turns out
thinking.
it's not really a resolution, and it was just Jean messing with him. Um, yeah. So I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, I was gonna say so after that scene happens and they tease you and being like maybe she does like remember him. There's a part of her that does remember him, and then later on you see them interact and she really does not remember him.
Hmm.
But then the thing that's interesting is that's not the case either of her not remembering him. Because yes, he goes to the party and pretends to be Maynard, but she also does say, "Oh, you were the guy at the coffee shop."
Hmm.
So she does remember him to some degree, since he mentions he's Peter Parker in that scene, but just maybe doesn't remember his name, but just remembers his face being like, okay, who's this weirdo?
Yeah. Who just keeps popping back up.
So, do you like the way they executed all of that? And played with, does she remember him? Does she not? Is it a little bit kind of thing? Yeah.
No, I
But not
loved it.
fully. Yeah.
I liked the way they did it.
I do too. I feel like they handled it really well. They didn't just do like a cookie cutter, like, we know a ton of people want them back together and give them like an immediately satisfying conclusion. They're like, no, that's not fully realistic. And they may reunite with time, but it's not going to happen in this specific movie, which I
Hmm.
give them props for doing. Since they could have just been like, no, we're afraid to do that. That's going to turn away the audience, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah.
And if they do eventually make it back to each other, it's gonna feel pretty rewarding if they make us wait it out.
For sure. She doesn't reciprocate Peter's feelings. I like because she doesn't remember him, and like she explicitly says that, and I feel like you could tell something kind of like like the audience's like excitement kind of drops a little when that's revealed
Oh
a
yeah.
bit. Like just there's a total like a tonal shift completely because people are so happy and like, oh my god, and look, they're together again, to like, oh, they were messing with us.
That was
Like, yeah,
harsh.
that was that, yeah, that was a lot. And then right after that reveal, I mean, she barely gets saved from falling. That was another, like, not only did they do that, but they literally made her fall the way we've seen Gwen Stacy fall. So they have
Hmm.
to throw that into the mix and make us scared of that once again. Whenever someone falls like that, you have to be like, oh my god, are they gonna pull a Gwen Stacy again?
Yeah, Peter doesn't have the biggest track record of making these catches.
Nope.
They did it slightly. They had her fall the same way in No Way Home. Granted, she got caught by Andrew Garfield, but Tom was still the one who failed to catch her. And for a second, I was like, why would they repeat her falling in No Way Home if they're not gonna actually have her fall all the way? So yeah, I was a little nervous.
Yeah, but then they also made such a big deal with like Garfield catching her in No Way Home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, of like he finally redeemed himself by protecting her. So I thought that was an interesting choice to do after that was such a big part of his arc in the last movie.
Yeah.
I I don't know. Do you feel like them doing that in this kind of undercuts that or no?
I don't think it undercuts it. And honestly, I think if they do it again, it won't work. But in this instance, I think it just worked to actually make the audience feel a little fear for a little bit because we've seen him film before to
Yeah,
do
because you're
this.
like, what is Jane gonna do right now? Like, I have no clue.
Yeah.
Since you
Oh, yeah.
literally saw a guy get hit by a taxi, like,
That was right before that. Yeah.
yeah. Um, what did you think of MJ's like dynamic with Frank?
Um.
Total shift in combo, but
No,
I
no,
feel like
no.
not a lot of people are talking about that. And
I
that was an
liked.
interesting part of the movie.
I did like the little exchange that they had when she was like, sounds like Staten Island. Um, we just didn't get a lot of screen time with MJ and Frank together, but I did enjoy the scenes together that they did have.
I'm glad you brought up that Staten Island sign because Staten Island line because it does show she is insightful and like
Mhm.
very like witty and like quick on her toes because she's insightful enough to like to like say that, but then also she helps like Peter complete the inhibitor too. And it's
Mhm.
like I know we should be technically rooting against the whole concept of the inhibitor because we know it's going to have long-term effects in the whole MCU most likely.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, instead of Chekhov's gun, we got Chekhov's inhibitor, but yeah. Um
Magneto is not going to be happy with Peter once he shows up.
oh boy, yeah. Well, that's another thing about that's interesting about introducing Jean Grey in this movie, and I think that's why some people had some doubt if it was Jean Grey, because the X-Men are coming back in
Mhm.
Doomsday, so it's like with Jean coming, I mean, being introduced in this movie, she's way younger than like James Marsden or like Alan Cumming, so it does make it a little confusing if you are a casual fan like I think it's easy for us to keep up with if you're like hardcore, but if you are like a casual fan who watches only the Spider-Man movies, I'm curious how confusing it might be for you.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I wonder if that's why they're keeping Famke Janssen out of this one too.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that too. Of like maybe that's why Halle Bailey. Sorry, I meant Barry. Sorry, I always go mix those two up. Barry and Bailey because people mix them up all the time. So then now the names just come in and out of my mouth. But I think Halle Berry and Famke Janssen, like you said, it's like, are they not in this movie because they're gonna have Jean Grey and possibly a young Storm show up in Doomsday and like
Yeah.
different universes from those X-Men and they're trying to make a point about like multiverse kind of the same way they did with like Michael Keaton in The Flash with like Sasha Kaye because like Christopher Reeve is dead so he couldn't come back in The Flash. I mean
Mm-hmm.
he was de-aged
Kind of.
artificially,
Yeah.
but like and so was Helen Slater. But like Michael Keaton was older, and you have Sasha Kaye, who's like a younger Supergirl. So are they gonna do something similar with the X Men, maybe, where it's like,
I don't know. I do think that either at the end of Doomsday or at the end of Secret Wars, there is going to be like a full. Oops, sorry. There is going to be like a full exit with the Fox X Men characters. Like, I think if they keep anybody around, it's going to be Hugh Jackman because in the comics you have like the regular Wolverine universe. Well, not Wolverine universe, but the universe with regular Wolverine and the X-Men, and then you have Old Man Logan separately. So that could kind of be what Hugh Jackman serves as. But as far as the rest of the other older X-Men characters, I don't think any of them stick around any longer after Secret Wars.
It's so tricky because Ryan Reynolds has confirmed a fourth Deadpool movie, and we know the
Mm-hmm.
previous one was Deadpool and Wolverine. But then I'm also hearing rumors of they're gonna try to do something with Hugh Jackman and Tobey Maguire's version of Spider-Man and Doomsday.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what's gonna end up happening, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well.
But
We'll see.
yeah, getting back to the topic of MJ, I'm trying to think if there's anything we didn't cover with that yet.
I really like that she's still just best buds with Ned, and that they're roommates.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Oh, we have to talk about her confronting Peter with a letter. That
Yes.
scene. That's one
Yeah.
scene we didn't talk about yet. What did you think of that?
That was among like my top three favorite scenes
That's probably
as
one of
far
the better
as
scenes in the movie.
yeah, as
That
far as both of
definitely,
their
yeah.
performances.
I agree. Since when I think of like her performance, I think mostly of the rooftop scene of her having to pretend she's MJ, but also there's hints of Jean Grey and giving the audience some hints that she's Jean Grey at the same time, and how that's hard to play that. But the letter scene is also really good.
Mm-hmm. Very strong, and I think that that scene makes it so much better overall in the movie of why, because they were kind of toying with, does she remember him or does she not? The line of her saying, "I don't love you, I don't even know you," as like the final confirmation of like, dang, she really does not remember him, is such a good match.
I think another thing, one last thing I want to point out before we move on with MJ, since a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people are criticizing, not a lot, but there is some people criticizing that she's less quirky in this movie than other versions and she's less herself. But the more I think about it, like us talking about the Staten Island line or her helping with the inhibitors, she does have some sense of agency with that we have seen in the previous movies. But I would also argue her drawing Ned and Peter is also a very MJ thing for her to do, since that's something I didn't catch that she does, but I noticed on rewatch of Homecoming is she's drawing people into tension, since she
Mm-hmm.
likes drawing people when they're distressed, is what she says in that movie, and I like that through line comes back in this movie with her drawing Ned and Peter bonding in the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So, for those who are like, okay, this isn't really MJ. She's kind of changed. She has a little bit. She's more mature, as you would expect someone after 4 years of college to be. But to say she's fully gone, I don't agree with that either. And like, she
Yeah,
doesn't lack agency in this movie. Yeah, she's falling from the rooftop, but like, she is helping out with the inhibitors also. So, yeah, I think the characterization was good for me at least.
yeah, she was very useful in this movie, and definitely um, had a role in pushing the plot itself forward, um, versus her other three per- performances. Not saying that she didn't have good performances. I just didn't think that she was driving the story too too much in the first three. But this one, she was very, like I said, very helpful.
Yeah. I mean, she's a strong female character, and another
Mm-hmm.
strong female character. We finally figured out that the hood is officially Sadie Sink. I mean, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people were speculating it anyways after the trailers, but yeah. So we talked about her a bit already. What did you think about like the way they portrayed her possession powers?
Um, I didn't mind it. I know a lot of people, like specifically the Jean Grey superfans, were not very happy with how she was handled in this. And not as strongly connected to the X-Men from growing up as much as most people are. So I didn't really mind what they were doing with Jean, but I do feel for the X-Men fans and the Jean Grey fans that are upset.
I well, some people. I haven't seen this movie, but I've seen a couple people compare like the way she jumps from person to person to Denzel in the movie Fallen, which I haven't seen myself. But I'm like, maybe I need to check out that movie now.
Yeah,
Like,
me too.
but since a lot of people are like, she could have, they could have showed you like CGI of like her jumping in and out and like kind of like the astral projection in like Doctor Strange, her jumping, but they instead did like something more practical with it and kind of made you as confused as Peter was, which I think was a very clever thing for them to do to add to the tension in the movie.
Hmm.
Um, since there is a version of it that could have been less practical. Um, what did you think of like them bringing back? Well, okay, not bringing back since the damage control Department of Damage Control has been a thing for quite a bit. But what did you think of like the Department of Damage Control specifically in this movie? Um,
Um, I think they did serve as like a good overall hidden villain that we didn't see coming.
um, so something I remember the damage control being introduced in Homecoming with that opening sequence with Michael Keaton's character, but something I think people may have forgot about is they also show up in No Way Home because the guy from Succession, I forgot how to pronounce his name. I think it's like Arion Moayed or something like that.
Yes, he played
He,
Stu. Yeah.
yeah, he played Stu in Succession. He is an agent that shows up in No Way Home, and he works for the Department of Damage Control. He also shows up in Miss Marvel, and who's a confirmed mutant in this universe, even though I don't think she's a mutant in the comics. And then I think the Department of Damage Control also shows up in She-Hulk as well. Like, I don't know if he specifically does, but I think there's facilities in that show that pop up. So they've been setting up the damage control thing for quite a bit, but it seems like they're going to be kind of like a government presence that's anti-mutant going forward in the MCU. And they're
Hmm.
going to be a through line. Something I was thinking about while like watching this movie is when Tremel Tillman was introduced, I wasn't familiar with the fact that they kind of technically confirmed who his character was in the trailers, in the captioning, since apparently they say his name is Bill in the captioning. I didn't realize this was the case. So in my head, I was like, is he Stryker? Like General Stryker? Even if he isn't General Stryker, it seems like he might be a General Stryker type character going forward in the
Hmm.
MCU. That I don't. Do you think that's the last time we're gonna see him or no?
Well, that I was actually going to ask you that if Tremel Tillman is going to come back. I did he get arrested at the end of this movie?
I don't know, but he's the head of damage control. And it's interesting that they didn't make the guy from Succession come back because he's
Hmm.
such a through line in the previous movies and has popped up more than once. It's so interesting that they chose Tremel to show Tremel Tillman instead. I wonder why that's the case. If maybe they weren't able to get that other guy back, or they just were like, no, we need to have to show that guy is just an agent. He's not the head of the whole department. To make this guy more menacing, we have to have a new character completely. I don't know they, what was this, their logic behind that. It's
Maybe
hard to tell.
Arian's character is still like present in the picture. They're just two different. Like maybe they're just saving him to come back as well as Tremel Tillman. Like maybe they wanted to introduce Tremel Tillman with out Arian's character so that we can focus more on him, so that it's more of a big deal if they start working with each other or when they are on screen with each other in the future.
Yeah, we'll see if both of them. If I think Tillman will probably come back, but the question is, will he be working with Arian, or is Arian too busy with other projects to show up again? Who knows? Um, but yeah, so there's this whole conflict with damage control of Peter initially views Jean as dangerous and then turns her over to damage control, but then learns more about her backstory and feels bad about doing so. And we discover the whole thing with VMAX, since that's her clue, that her only connection to what happened to her only like clue of what happened to her sister. And then we unfortunately realize that VMAX is the text on the air vent in the cell, which is super sad when you realize that, because immediately when I saw that I was like, oh, that means she's gone. It was like a bummer to realize that.
Yeah, and learning that VMAX was literally nothing, it's just an air vent company.
What do you think about like the way they revealed Jean Grey as a whole? They don't like show her face immediately. They don't say her name immediately. The marketing in general for this movie doesn't say Jean Grey. They made such a big deal of like avoiding spoiling it for some.
Yeah, I see, to me, with all of the other stuff that gets revealed before the movies come out, like RDJ being Doom or the Fox X-Men returning in Doomsday, it's just like we've been told such bigger reveals beforehand that this one just didn't feel like it had to be a big secretive. Like, I don't think there would have been any difference in the marketing or people's hype if they just told us ahead of time that Jean was playing or that Sadie was going to be playing Jean. I honestly think it would have been a bigger surprise, even though Mark Ruffalo's been in 10 movies now. It would have been a bigger surprise to not know that he was going to be in the movie and then to see the whole.
That's interesting about Mark Ruffalo. I hadn't thought about that, but with Jean Grey specifically, for me, I know it bothers some people the way they handled it, and they're like, they should have just said it since we all kind of predicted it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I do think there is some casual people who don't keep up with everything going on as much as like the hardcore online fans do, who maybe didn't know who it was going to be as it was happening and weren't paying attention to Steve Lacy spoiling everything on the red carpet.
Oh my god.
That was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, people are so mad about that.
Um, Jean is super powerful in this movie.
Yeah. She is. I
Um,
mean, just in general, she's one
yeah,
of the most powerful beings in Marvel.
they did a really good job of establishing that. I feel like
Hmm.
in like without rushing it, and she's a complex character. There's key differences, but it's kind of in some ways she is kind of similar to Scarlet Witch, since they kind of introduced Scarlet Witch as a villain as well, and she can kind of warp reality in the way Jean can in the future.
Hmm.
Not this movie as much, but yeah.
So, do you think that they're giving her they're giving Jean the Wanda treatment?
But for me, I'm cool with that because Wanda is one of my favorite characters.
Hmm.
But there was a lot of people forget this now because WandaVision, a lot of people love that show and consider that the best MCU show. But there was a period where I was one of the Wanda defenders after Age of Ultron, and I kept telling people, I'm like, she has so much potential. She's such a cool character. People are overlooking her. They don't realize how cool she is. And then when WandaVision came out, now everyone's suddenly a WandaVision fan. So it's like, I do think history's kind of repeating itself a little with Jean Grey, with like a lot of people being like, I don't know how to feel about her. I kind of don't like her characterization. And then
Yeah.
inevitably, I feel like 5, 10 years from now, we're gonna have the same combos we did about Wanda. With it's it feels a little deja vu to me.
I think the big Marvel fans are gonna have the same opinion on her, like as they have now going forward. It's the general audience fans that I think are gonna be going back and forth, like how they were with Wanda.
I one of the things cool sequences in this movie is the Roosevelt Island sequence, and part of why that's so cool, and it took me a while to like fully process this, is because they set up because in the first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire, there's that iconic tram sequence where
Mhm.
he's trying to prevent MJ from falling in the tram, I believe. Um, is that what the sequence is? Mary Jane is in one of the trams, and then there's a
On
group
the
of people on the other tram, or something like that.
It's Green Goblin has a group of people tied to something on a tram, but then he has MJ just by herself in his
Yeah.
other hand. So he was
Okay.
making them choose, like, I'm gonna drop these people or I'm gonna
From
drop
the
MJ.
tram, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's the iconic Roosevelt Island tram sequence. So to have Roosevelt Island come back in a more subversive way, since that's such like an entertaining traditional like action sequence versus like this is more of like a melancholy kind of like character driven sequence as a whole, and like she basically locks like a kilometer of the city, and she has Roosevelt Island is between Manhattan and Queens,
Hmm.
so she's able to like stop people and freeze them in Manhattan, which we see Frank encounter, but then she's also able to target the people that are in Queens, which is why MJ and Ned are able to be affected as well. So she's pretty powerful when you
Yeah.
think about it in that way.
Well, I
Yeah,
think we've got a very small taste of her power in this
and Frank insinuates that she's the reason that Peter is kept alive at the hospital too.
one. Hmm.
So
But how was she? Was she like in his head, just like keeping his mind alive while he was unconscious? Like how was she doing that?
I have no clue, but she's powerful enough to be doing something to help him
Yeah.
stay alive, which is crazy. And then she feels guilty enough that she leaves the city, and she's not even in the hospital at the end.
Yeah.
And we don't know where she ended up going. They'll probably show us in the next movie what happened to her. Um, is there
Well,
anything else you want to say? Oh no, ask your question.
well, I was gonna say she's supposed to be in Secret Wars, isn't she?
I have no clue. I have
I
no
think
clue.
they confirmed that a couple months ago, saying that they didn't say she was gonna be in Doomsday, but they said she'll be in Secret Wars.
Sadie Sink specifically?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, that kind of ties into my theory that I kind of had earlier. They'll handle it somewhat similar to Michael Keaton with Sasha Kai's Supergirl, a cross
Mm-hmm.
generation. That's very interesting. Anything else you want to say about Jean Grey?
Um, yeah, no, we can move on from G.
Yeah.
Said
Okay.
most of.
Let's talk about Ned. We haven't talked about Ned a ton yet. Um, a lot of people are misinterpreting that final scene with the handshake in the Peter thing. Some people interpret it as he remembers Peter because he has special powers, as with like the magical powers that we saw in No Way Home, and then some people are just
Right.
like, I think MJ mentioned the name Peter, and he's just piecing together that Spider-Man and Peter, the guy who's saying he's Peter and shaking his hand, is the same person. That's how I
As
interpret it, is the latter rather than the magical power thing. But how did you interpret it?
did you think that Ned remembered him as Spider-Man
No, but some people
after?
think.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think he did. I don't think he remembered him as Spider-Man, but I don't know how the magic of Ned would apply into this.
I think
I feel like that's like such a small, like obscure detail to actually use, unless they're gonna set it up later on.
yeah, people are harping on it a lot though with this final scene with them.
I liked it.
To me, Ned is the heart of this franchise. I love him. I think he's the coolest guy. Like,
So yeah.
I'm glad. Like, seeing them bond in the apartment was great. Were they dorky with that Lord of the Rings line that they were reciting? Yes, but like that's so Ned and Peter. Like they're building the Death Star Lego set together, and they're
Yeah.
building Legos once again. It was so wholesome to see
Them
that for
building those
them.
Legos made me. I got sad watching that scene. Like sad. That to me, I think was almost more emotional than MJ telling him that he didn't or that she didn't love him or not. I felt the most sadness when he was sitting in the room.
Um, One of the things to note in Ned's room specifically is since Destin Daniel Cretton directed this, his next project is Naruto, and there's a Naruto poster in Ned's bedroom, which is a fun Easter egg.
Oh, Naruto. Yeah, 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 yeah. Is it pronounced Naruto or Naruto?
What you said is probably more accurate, to be honest.
Because I have some friends that are fans of Naruto and they love it. Yeah, and that apparent I didn't notice it in the movie, but a buddy of mine told me he pointed it out to me today, and then I saw it was like, oh, it makes sense why this poster got so much screen time in the movie.
Yeah, another Easter egg is that Ned's social media handle is Grateful Ned 42, and
Mhm.
42 is the universe that Miles Morales is from in Spider Verse.
Mhm.
And I think they chose that number because of Jackie Robinson.
Okay.
But so that's another cute little Easter egg with Ned. But a big plot point is he's the one behind the Spidey Tracker app, and that shows up in the post credit scene as well.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of that?
What did I think of him being the guy behind the app or the post credit scene?
The post credit scene with the app.
Um, I feel like some people thought it was lackluster, but I think um, there's like three theories for what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're probably on the same page as me. So you tell me what you think was your
Um,
interpretation of it.
few things that I think it could be. I think it could be the one that I least likely think it is the symbiote incoming, like the meteor of the symbiote coming to
Oh, I
Earth.
wasn't even thinking that, but true. They did set up Venom in No Way Home.
Mhm.
Okay, that is
I,
one theory.
I think it could be Miles Morales,
Yeah, that's the second. That's one of the theories I've been hearing.
or it's Peter being transported to Battle
Yes,
where
that's
Secret
another
Wars is
theory
going
I've
to
been
take
hearing.
place. Yeah.
For those not familiar with Battle World, if you're listening, basically Secret Wars is a big storyline in the Marvel comics. After Doomsday, Secret Wars next movie. There's 42 universes, I think, for Battle World that kind of collide or something like that.
I, I can't remember the number of them. I
It
feel
might
like
be
in
the
this
same
movie,
number as the Miles being from 42 as well. I could be wrong.
because Miles Morales does debut in the 2015 version of Secret Wars. I haven't read the 2015 version yet because I want to read a bunch of other stuff that's going to make me appreciate it more because people have said that
Have you read the
2015 Secret.
80s? The
Yeah.
80s Secret
Yeah,
Wars? Okay, but
I
it's
read
not
that last year.
2015.
Yeah.
A lot of
Um
people are saying they're more likely going to adapt the newer version than the 80s.
I think so too. I think like the setting and the atmosphere and like maybe a lot of like the action scenarios are going to be based on the 80s one, but I think as far as like the whole like the science of the movie, they're going to heavily focus on the 2015 version.
Yeah. So the other theory besides Battle World that I've been hearing is what if it's not Tom Holland's Peter being
Mhm.
transported, but rather Doomsday trailers are setting up incursions, multiverses, other universes colliding with Earth, this Earth. So, what if it's Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man universe colliding with this Earth,
Could
and
be.
they're setting up Doomsday.
I also heard, speaking of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man incursions, I don't know if you heard the rumors about him wearing like the very traditional looking Iron Spider suit
No, I haven't.
today. There's a rumor that Maguire will be in Doomsday with like the red and gold Iron Spider suit, and he got it through a piece of like the tech on Peter's suit from No Way Home. I guess just Peter too had a piece of it when he went back home, so he used it to create the Iron Spider suit.
Interesting. We'll see if that ends up being true or not.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot going on with that Spidey tracker, and people are just like, "Oh, it's like a dumb thing. We waited for nothing for that." But going back to like why Ned creates the app in the first place, it's because he remembers Spider-Man, but he doesn't remember Peter, and he wants to thank him for saving him when he was younger. Um, One of the funniest things is him trying to speculate who he thinks Spider-Man could be, and then the photographs of Tony Revolori's Flash Thompson, and then Martin Starr's um, teacher character. That was so funny. I was
yeah.
laughing.
My theater got a good laugh out of that one.
I love Martin Starr as the teacher, and like Far From Home, there's that dumb camera gag that I laugh at every time when he drops the camera in the water. Even though I've seen it more than once, I laugh every time, and it's hilarious to me.
He is one of my favorite parts of those first two movies.
And technically, they set him up in Incredible Hulk because his character is a student in those movies, and then they retcon that he became a teacher later on.
That's right. The same actor was in it, wasn't he?
Yeah, Martin Starr from Freaks and Geeks. That was
Mm-hmm.
my introduction to him. Is he's like really young in that show compared to now.
He's in
Um,
Silicon Valley too, isn't he?
I guess. Yeah, you're probably right. Um, but yeah, I love Ned guessing it's those two and being completely wrong. It's like I get why he's guessing it's them because Martin Starr's character is such a Spider-Man fanatic, and then Flash Thompson's trying to be best friends with Spider-Man and loves him as well. So it is a fair assessment, but we know he's wrong, and even Peter obviously knows he's wrong. So it's just really funny. Um, but he seems really happy, Ned, and like he's living a fulfilling life after high school. Well, yeah, after high school and like during college.
Yeah, I
He
agree.
seems to be more confident. Um,
I
but
would
like,
love to interview him.
yeah. Wait, you said you love what?
I was just saying I would love to interview him, Jacob.
I've technically seen him in person because there was the Wrecking Crew premiere this year. It was a Jason Momoa movie,
Mm-hmm.
and Jacob was in it. And so I saw him in person on the red carpet for that movie.
One
But
of
my
my
brain
old.
was
Oh no.
fried. My brain was fried because Momoa was just so insane to see in person. I don't fangirl often when I see like celebs in person, but my brain was so fried, and then my brain just turned off when Audrey Arjona stepped out of the car, and since she was wearing this insane see-through dress, and it was just like, okay, I like my brain just turned off completely. I was like, so I was paying attention to Jacob a little bit, but it was like really distracting. What were you gonna say?
I feel like Momoa is such a big presence too. But I was gonna say my one of my old roommates. She worked on Spider-Man: No Way Home. She was one of Amy Pascal's like direct assistants, and I remember her telling me about Jacob Batalon and meeting him on set for the first time, and just like seeing how he was as a person throughout.
Yeah,
She just had really good stories about him.
yeah, I would love
Really
hanging
funny. It
with him in
sounds
real
like.
life.
Yeah.
Um,
He's like a very he's apparently in real life he's very cool, nonchalant. He's got like his entourage that follows him. And then he's like the giddy nerd in the movies, and it's just like a funny balance that she said.
Interesting. Any more to say about Ned, or do you want to talk about Frank Castle?
We can talk about Frank.
I mean, part of the conflict of this movie, like he doesn't really get along with Peter because they have like different approaches to being a vigilante.
Hmm.
And I mean, Frank is willing to fight by any means necessary to the point where we do see that sniper attempt at the end of the movie. Um, it's interesting that Zendaya kind of discovers his backstory a little bit with that cabinet scene. She sees the pictures and he's like, "Don't ask questions." Um, we kind of know his backstory though from like other appearances in TV shows from him. But like for the people who haven't watched him in TV shows, I think that was like a good quick way of being like he did have a family, but they're gone, and that's the key difference between him and Peter. And I did think that was a for the people who are like, okay, this is way more jokey than we're used to the Punisher. That scene for me is what grounded the Punisher because him being so logical and saying something so poignant to Peter of like, I lost my loved ones. You haven't. They're still alive. Like if I could do that, I would tell them in an instant who I was. Like you should be doing that. I think that was such a valid thing for Frank to say.
Yeah, I agree.
But I feel so bad for Frank. Like he's just like he's basically telling Peter like I don't want you to have the same fate as me. Like me, it's whatever. My family isn't here anymore. It's okay for me to avoid human connections and be totally isolated from everyone on my boat. But you don't need to be.
Hmm.
That was another thing that they apparently that comes from the comics is that boat. Golden Girl is the name of the boat. Um, Besides the van popping up, people were excited about that. Another Easter egg is the sequence where he's holding Spider-Man after he accidentally shot him. That comes from the
Yeah.
Civil War comics,
Hmm.
Civil War issue 5 specifically. There's the Punisher holding him in his arms in that as well, that image. Um, and yeah,
I
anything else?
loved, I loved them recreating that comic panel.
You recognized it immediately?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's one of the most famous Marvel panels. I feel like I remember seeing that years ago, well before I even read Civil War. I read Civil War for the first time 3 years ago, and I didn't even know that that was the book that that panel came from. So it was nice to finally see where it came from. Totally different context than how they got into that situation. It was more like Frank finding Peter in that state. He wasn't the one that caused it. But I did like that switch of Frank being the one that caused this, because it gives him more reason to freak out. And also, like you said earlier, like why you feel so bad for Frank, I do too. And I always felt bad for him watching his show, and especially in the last special too. But I guess just seeing him around Peter makes you feel worse for him because they are very drastically different from each other, but they do have like the two common things between each other that makes them so alike. But for the most part, they're very different. And seeing the difference portrayed like right in front of Frank's face, definitely makes it easier to be sympathetic for him.
Yeah, they have a more brotherly love towards the end, and he's literally the one who shows up in the hospital for him, and like even pretends to be Spider-Man, which was very cute.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
Off
Yep.
topic, I have to ask, since you said you're familiar with him with the shows, are you a Frank and Karen shipper, or are you a Daredevil slash Matt and Karen shipper?
Matt and Karen.
Okay, I'm
Matt.
Frank and Karen. I don't care what
I
people say.
my girlfriend is Frank and Karen too, and I think my little sister is too. She's a big fan of Daredevil and Punisher, my little sister, and she's a fan of Matt and Karen. I think she likes Frank slightly more, so that just gives her the bias. But
I
I
love
just,
Barenthal. He's so
yeah,
cool. That's another one I've been lucky enough to see in person. I saw him on Broadway this year, and I was
nice.
freaking out. I was
That
since
was
he
his
was
debut, wasn't it?
yeah, he was doing Dog Day Afternoon with another MCU actor, Eben Moss-Baccarat.
Oh,
Yep,
that's right. That's right.
the thing.
I'm sure Evan talked him into doing it.
But
Like broke him out of
apparently,
his shell.
I think Eben Moss-Baccarat was technically in the MCU before Fantastic Four, since I think he
Yeah.
might have been in Punisher as a coder
Mm-hmm.
before that, which
Yeah,
is
he
pretty
was.
crazy. So, yeah, they have a history of working together, Barenthal and him, for sure.
And they did the Bears spin-off episode with each other too. They
Yep,
did that with each
they've
other.
worked on a few things together, for
Like,
sure.
yeah, they're boys
Um,
for sure.
any more you want to say about Frank, or do you want to move on to another character?
Um, yeah, no, we can move on from Frank.
Okay, Bruce. Bruce. He's teaching at Empire State University. Quantum mechanics. One of his students, she's recast, is Sydney Moon. I don't know if you know that.
Yes, I saw that from a tweet that somebody sent me this morning. I
She's the
didn't.
one who asks him about overpopulation.
Yes, but
And
who
Thanos.
is Cindy Moon?
She was introduced in Homecoming. She's like on the decathlon team. I think that's what it's called.
Oh, she went to school with them in the
Yep.
first movie. Oh,
Yep.
that makes
And I
sense.
think isn't she Silk in the comics?
You're right. That rings a bell now. That rings a bell. Because Silk shows up at the end of the second Spider-Man game, like post-credit scene, and I remember that's where I've heard the name
Yeah,
from.
Silk is one of those characters like Black Cat, where they're like, are they gonna ever do those two justice? Probably not. Like, like they always tease it. Like Felicity Jones was cast as Black Cat technically in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. They did nothing
Uh,
with that. They're doing nothing with Silk now. Yeah,
I think it would be hard to do Black Cat right in a movie because,
for sure.
I mean, when
I get
she's
what you mean.
there, yeah, like you make Peter look bad when you have Black Cat there.
That's the problem, is because she's kind of a love interest.
Hmm.
So when you have MJ being such an important part of the movies, or like Gwen Stacy with Amazing Spider-Man, it seems like he's disloyal to them.
Yeah.
So it only would have made sense to introduce her, I think, after Gwen Stacy dies in Amazing Spider-Man 2. But then they literally had a scene with Mary Jane played by Shailene Woodley, that was deleted from Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Oh, I
So
didn't
they
know
were,
that.
oh, you haven't seen, oh, you gotta look that
Well,
scene
I
up.
knew that she was
It's the
supposed to be.
coolest.
I knew she was supposed to be in Amazing Spider-Man 3, but I didn't know they filmed a scene with her
They,
for the second one.
yes, I've seen the scene online. You can't hear the audio, but it's Emma Stone and Shailene Woodley interacting. It's crazy. I wish we got that. Since people are like, would you rather have Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire or Amazing Spider-Man 3? Hands down, it's Spider-Man 3. Amazing Spider-Man 3 with Shailene. Since I love
Yeah,
Shailene. Um, I
they
loved her.
just
Oh
set
my god,
up.
what was that show with her this year? Um,
Oh, she was in
Sterling K.
something.
Brown.
Didn't watch it.
Paradise. Oh my gosh.
Oh, she was in Paradise.
Yes. Season 2 of Paradise.
My
She showed
parents
up.
and my
I was so
older sister.
happy.
Yeah, they love that show. My family does.
She's so underused in Hollywood. It's crazy to me she's not cast anymore and she doesn't have an Oscar by now, because there was a period she was the it girl and she was in Oscar caliber stuff. And then everything kind of fell apart around the time of Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I think the Divergent movies maybe hurt
Yeah,
a little bit.
unfortunately. But Jennifer Lawrence was able to break away from that. I wish we saw that in
Yeah,
15.
but the Hunger Games movies were super well received, though. I don't think the Divergent movies were very
Okay,
like
that's
critically
fair.
acclaimed.
Yeah. But it was, yeah, it's interesting. Since that's an alternative universe. They're never gonna do that, but it'd be so cool if she popped up in like Secret War or something.
Yeah.
Like the way Gambit showed up, I would lose my mind. But they're not gonna do that. I don't think enough people know about that casting. Um, It's still crazy that we got Channing Tatum's Gambit after all these years, and
That to me was
Wolverine, and now Doomsday. It's
that was one of my
crazy.
biggest theater surprise moments. I think that was probably one of the hardest that I've freaked out watching something for the first time.
Yeah. Getting back on topic with the Hulk specifically, I forgot how we even. Oh, it was Sydney Moon. That's what
Yeah,
got us. We started talking about Sydney Moon, and then it went down a rabbit hole of like things they should do with female characters that they never did.
and then we went
Um,
back to the Amazing Spider-Man too.
um, so Bruce is teaching at Empire State University, and Peter asks him for help controlling mutations, basically. And then Hulk gets possessed by Jean Grey, and then he regresses to the destructive Savage Hulk personality. Um, People have been craving for that kind of Hulk to come back again, but
Yeah,
some people feel like having him come out and like not have like a closed book ending in this movie kind of undercuts the themes of this movie. I disagree. Where do you land on Hulk in this movie?
I kind of wish that they didn't show us either as I think they showed us too much Hulk in the movie because I feel like every scene that he had in this we saw in the trailers. Um, Besides the fact that Smart Hulk came out for a little bit before he turned into Savage Hulk, but like I understand that they wanted to tell us ahead of time to get us excited because they know that we've been missing the Rage Hulk so much, but you just don't have to get you don't really have to try that hard to get people excited for a Spider-Man movie because it's Spider-Man. Him and Batman do so well every time something.
Yeah, already
Um,
the Thursday day previews or screenings for Spider-Man Brand New Day broke records and was beating Endgame.
yeah, crazy. Um, but but that's us knowing that Rage Hulk is going to be in the movie is not because of that. It's because we haven't had a Spider-Man movie in 3 years or 4 years or however long it's been,
5.
and five, even
I
longer.
know. When I realized that, I was like, "What? It's been
That's
5 years
crazy. That is crazy. But
since I was talking to my mom, and she's like, "Oh, it's only been a year." I was like, "Oh, you have no clue. It's been way longer than that." Oh my.
like it's been 3 years since the last Spider-Man game came out, and that like made me go, "Oh my God, time's flying by." And No Way Home was like 2 years before that. It's crazy how long it's been. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think they gave away too much Hulk going into this movie. I really wish that we didn't know at all. I wish he was the surprise appearance instead of Jean Grey.
Interesting. I feel like you get why he's in here though, since he's
Oh yeah,
trying to suppress his capabilities the same way Peter is, and I think that's going to be a continuing theme going forward in the MCU, and we'll see how that narrative unfolds as a conflict. Um, for sure, there's a lot to look forward to with
yeah.
the with just great storytelling to be told.
Mhm.
Um, can we move on, or you want to say any more?
Well, I have a question for you
Oh yeah.
actually about the
Okay.
Hulk.
What's your
When
question?
when he made the face when he was like, "I'm your friend, it's Peter," and then the Hulk like calmed down and then he let himself drop. Was that him just being able to regain control, or um,
I think so, to some degree. Some people are saying it's him remembering who Peter was. I disagree. I don't think he remembers. I think it's more just like the way Natasha was able to calm him and be
yeah?
like, oh, there's a human that cares about me, kind of thing.
So he heard the word friend probably.
Yeah, I think people
Serves the
are
same
hyper
purpose.
focused on the Peter. I think it's the friend.
Yeah, he said the word friend. That
Like, he
makes
saw
sense.
the hurt he was causing Peter and
Mhm.
felt guilty, I think.
That makes sense. But
That
yeah,
was
I
my
re-
takeaway.
I really liked what they did with Hulk and Bruce in this movie. Like, I really enjoyed it. I think he served an amazing purpose. I just think it would have been a great surprise.
Yeah. I mean, another person they kept showing in the trailers was Tremel Tillman. Do you want to move on
Yep.
to him now?
Yeah.
Okay. We talked about him being the head of damage control and where Agent Cleary is and all of this. We have no clue. That's the character played by the guy from Succession. Um, he's doing experiments on telepaths, whether it be Jean Grey or Sister Sarah Grey. Um, yeah, we'll see what's his future going forward for sure, and if he's gonna do more experiments. I've seen people who are worried because Peter takes off his inhibitor at the end of the movie while fighting the Hand. So people are worried, is that on the ground for Tremel Tillman's character to pick up, and he's going to use that technology on other X-Men now. That's
Mm-hmm.
what people are our damage control is going to get that, even if it's not Tremel Tillman specifically, since damage control just cleans everything up.
Yeah. I do think he'll be back.
Yeah.
Especially because he didn't really like the last we saw of him in this movie didn't really feel like they were wrapping him up.
Did you believe he was a good guy at any point or no?
Like before the events of this movie?
No, or even as the movie. Like, when did you start picking up that he was a bad guy?
Oh, there was a point in the movie because going into this, yeah, I didn't think he was going to be a villain at all. I think it was when he was talking to Spider-Man outside, and Spider-Man was telling him like, I hope I get to talk to her when she wakes up. Then and he was like, me too.
Yeah, there was a point where he was pretending to be ignorant about, like, the telepath powers, and he's like, oh, I remember Sarah being mentioned or something like that. And then later on, Peter starts questioning that because MJ says she doesn't remember anything. So before that scene, I know, like, some people started questioning his character because they're like, wait a minute, is he telling the truth? But then I picked it up really early on in the movie, since I know some people were speculating he might be a villain in the movie. So when he says very early on in the movie, when Peter is like, oh, like, I saw that she was jumping from person to person, and then he says so matter-of-factly, like, oh, she wasn't able to get into you, right? And it's like he's so certain about it, and I was just like, wait, is he the bad guy? Like, that's when I
Yeah.
started picking up on it very early on. Yeah, so yeah, he's definitely gonna show up in future movies, and
Yeah.
we'll see the role he plays, for sure. But something I think is interesting is he has no clue what VMAX is. So yes, he's ignorant. He pretends he's ignorant about knowing who Sarah is, and is like, oh yeah, I remember hearing that name when Jean possessed me once or something like that. But, like, he legitimately didn't know what VMAX was
Yeah.
because he was never in the cell himself.
Hmm. But it
So
also turned out VMAX just turned out to not be anything at all.
yeah, just the vent. Yeah,
Mhm.
Vent Max.
And yeah, it
Um,
wasn't even VMAX, it was VentMax.
do you want to talk more characters?
Yeah.
Okay, so Scorpion. I didn't want to get into a ton of spoilers earlier, but he's barely in this movie. He's not in it as much as, like, what's the Spider-Man animated show that's running right now that he just popped up in recently?
Your Friendly Neighborhood
Yes,
Spider-Man.
that one.
Yeah.
So some people are like, he's kind of wasted. So is Tombstone compared to that.
Yeah. I don't know if they could be coming back. I m- my whole thing with all the villains in this movie, it did make it very clear after like the first 20 minutes of the movie, like, oh, we were told all these villains were in the movie. to throw us off from like who the
Yeah,
main
it was
villain
just so funny
was.
because
And
in the trailer, after the trailer, everyone's like, I'm so worried this movie's gonna be overstuffed with villains, and it ended up being overstuffed with heroes rather than villains because the
yeah,
villains are barely in the movie, and a lot of them are in that opening montage.
yeah, like all of those like comic book panels that they recreated as the
Oh my
frames
god, so
that we kept
cool.
seeing in the trailers. Oh, then in the trailers, yeah, they looked fantastic, and it makes sense now that it was all like a part of a montage.
And it
And
seems like some stuff was possibly cut out of that montage too,
yeah, probably
like even more than what we saw. Um,
there probably was like more Tombstone, especially since he had like a whole voice line at one point. Um, Maybe they were setting some of them up to show back up later in the future because I know like Trent.
Sinister Six.
Yeah, yeah. I hope so. I really hope so.
Done right for once rather than giving them solo movies like Craven the Hunter that nobody watches. I love Ewan Taylor
I
Johnson,
didn't
but I
watch
never saw that
Craven.
movie. I know,
I
I
didn't
never
see it.
saw that movie.
I have a buddy. I have a buddy. I'm not gonna throw him under the bus, but I remember him telling me that he liked Craven the first time he watched it, and that like made me be like, okay, I will never take one of your like movie opinions seriously ever again because he doesn't like Star Wars. We saw the Batman together and he hated it. He was bored out of his mind. And then all this time later, he tells me he was into the Craven movie. So I'm like, yeah, you can't talk to me about movies
I
anymore.
think, yeah, I thought the reason maybe they were bringing Scorpion back is to set up Sinister Six, but then he was barely in the movie. It's like, okay, so he was caught and he was in Rikers Island with Michael Keaton in Homecoming, and then he escapes in this movie because Jean possesses him, and then he gets caught again. Oh no, no, wait, before that, hold up. So he escaped. He somehow got out of Rikers Island.
hmm
Maybe he like served his time. Maybe he escaped. Peter catches him in the opening montage. He's going to prison. He escapes when he gets possessed by Jean Grey, and then he gets caught again because Peter catches him again in this movie. So it was just like, oh, I was kind of just like, okay, like, I don't know, yeah. There's a lot going on with this character. It's kind of just like, okay, he's out, he's in, he's out, he's in.
It's like they wanted to bring him back because they felt like they owed something to him from
Exactly.
after introducing him, but this was all they were able to give him at the moment.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
hope
did think he was going to be the main villain of this movie. He
there was
was
other people who did
advertised a lot.
too,
Yeah.
and people like him in shows that he's in. So
hmm
Michael Mando, yeah. I don't
Like
know, man.
the whole scene in the trailer when Peter like busts into his room and he's sweating and he passes out. Like I thought that was going to be like because he got poisoned by him or something.
Who knows? So
Yeah.
overall, do you think he was used well in this movie or no?
I think if they have plans to use him again later on, then yes.
Yeah, to keep us like keep him on our mind.
Yes,
Okay,
to
yeah.
keep
So we have to
reminding us
wait
that
and
he's
see.
there.
Okay, that's fair. We'll see. So dot dot dot.
hmm Yeah, TBD.
Yeah, TBD. The Hand. That was another thing that the trailers teased. We know them from Daredevil. They were also possessed by Jean Grey in this movie,
hmm
and the leader was played by a stunt performer and martial artist. Um, some people are saying they were kind of like supposed to be gone after the Defenders. I didn't watch that show, so I can't confirm firsthand if that's true or not. But also, I'm like, can't they like show up in different iterations or be like a new generation or something like that? Since that was like 10 years ago at this point. So to me, I don't know. Maybe I'm not informed enough, but to me it made sense. It wasn't totally illogical for them to be here, and it was
Yeah.
cool. And that's like that final action sequence with them was so dope.
Yes, I agree. That was what Jackie Chan's stunt team was used for, right?
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's why it was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, yeah,
again,
that choreography was
Destin Daniel
nuts.
Cretton, he knows how to do action, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We have to get into another big character we haven't talked about yet. Yelena.
Mm-hmm.
That pool
Big
scene.
potato.
Oh yeah, big potato, small potatoes. I love her as a character. Again,
Me
she's
too.
a stunted child, and it's so sad. But that's also why she's so funny. But it's also so heartbreaking that that's the case with that, and we see that backstory in Black Widow. For me, and I think a lot of people, she's one of the rare examples of a second generation character that's better than the first generation in this
Mm-hmm.
in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think she's better than Scarlet was as Natasha, because Natasha
Yeah.
was cool, but like she couldn't really deliver on comedic moments and dramatic moments, whereas Yelena can do both for me.
Yeah. I do think Florence Pugh is a better actor and performer in this universe. I still just I don't know if I prefer Yelena over Natasha yet, just because we had Natasha for so long.
I
But I
get
do
that.
agree, Florence. I do agree, Florence is a better actor.
Or better utilized in this universe, at least.
Yes. Hmm.
Um, some people disagree and think her best performance is in Thunderbolts. I think her in Black Widow and Hawkeye is my favorite so far that she's given us. She
Hmm.
isn't allowed to do the dramatic stuff that she does in those movies as much as this scene in the scenes in this movie that she's
Yeah.
given. But they do set up the fact that she's part of the new Avengers and she's kind of like views Peter as like lesser than her, even though he technically was an Avenger. So I do think that's an interesting idea to set up for Doomsday.
Hmm. I think what was I going to say about Yelena? Oh yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the Black Widow movie, but she really is what holds
Agree.
it up for me.
Full heartedly agree. That's
Yeah.
the key reason I love that movie is the performances from her and then Rachel Weisz. Like, period.
Yeah.
They give awesome performances and they're better than the actual movie itself.
I love David
Um,
Harbour too.
um, David Harbour is not in this movie, but he is in Doomsday.
Oh no, I meant
Um,
in Black Widow. I
no, no,
loved
no.
him in
I
Black
knew you were
Widow.
talking about. I knew
Yeah.
that. I was just saying in general.
Hmm.
Um, I think this is actually that's not true since she was in Hawkeye without him. Um, but um, so yeah, Peter asks her for help because she has experience with mind control because of the Red Room, unfortunately.
Hmm.
And asks her what's the deal with Jean Grey, and in that office, aka the pool. um, what did you think of that scene? Did you like that scene, or did you think it went on too long, or
I
not,
thought it
was it
was
needed?
hilarious.
I liked
Step
it.
into my office. Um, yeah, it was just another great representation of Peter Parker's awkwardness.
Agree, and this it made it felt more like a lived-in universe.
Hmm. I
Like
love
this movie more so than any other MCU movie felt really lived in, and
yes.
like anybody could pop up anytime.
Yes, because Banner and Yelena just popped up and actually served a good purpose. And um I love any scenario too where Peter has to explain why his mask isn't coming off too. Like I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. Like, oh, it defeats the whole purpose of the mask.
Yeah, some people think she's just in this movie to be hot during the pool scene, but I do think she does give some stuff narratively. Like,
Hmm.
she tells him that Jean is attacking the Department of Control, the Department of Damage Control in search of VMAX. Like, she's the one that introduces us to that concept of VMAX. She's the one who is able to access the redacted files that reveals who Jean Grey is. Like, she does have some stuff going on in this movie.
Mhm. And I think she serves as a good purpose to establish that Peter has connections to the Avengers. And if there's going to be anybody that he's reaching out to at this point in time, I think it makes the most sense to use her.
Yeah, but then also, like you said, he's very socially awkward since he has no connections. So I think that's important to
Hmm.
establish. And I think that's a relatable thing for a lot of people in this kind of like post pandemic world, if you're around that age of like not knowing how to interact with people, probably. Um, I'm trying to think if we should get into one more character or wrap up soon. Um, I wanted to talk about Aunt May and maybe Sarah Gray. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Aunt May real quick. We've touched on her a bit already. It was just so nice to see her in this movie, Marissa Tomei. She was totally missing, and then when she did, I was very happy about it.
I agree. I said, "Hey, friend," under my breath when she showed up.
And it was so important for Jean to have someone that accepts her abilities, even though she's talking about Peter. She just desperately needed to feel that sense of love so badly, and it was
Yeah.
so nice to see that for her.
She needed a hug.
Also, to show you just how much like Aunt May has shaped Peter's morality on the board that he's working at, like at home, like on like that desk setup he has.
Hmm.
Great power, great responsibility is written on the board.
I don't think I noticed that.
Yeah, I need to rewatch to catch that as well.
Hmm.
Anything else you want to say about Aunt May real quick, or do you want to get into Sarah
Just,
Gray?
just that it was, it's always nice to see Anime.
With her and even Yelena, it's like all these people that showed up at the premiere but weren't at the trailer, so you can kind of be like, are they in the movie? I guess they were.
Yeah.
Sarah Gray, that's another one. Jean Grey's sister. She was also at the premiere, but just no one knew who she was yet.
Yeah.
And even then, Sarah Gray is kind of minor in the comics, but like she is technically, I forgot which run specifically. It's like a writer that starts with the letter C. I think it's like Claremont or something
Chris
like that.
Claremont.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big
So
X-Men writer.
it seems like they might be going with the Claremont storylines going forward with X Men for like people that are like, what should I read to prep for the X Men movies? Maybe that
Oh yeah,
because
that's what I started on too. Was Claremont.
since she, I think in those comics and in this movie has the same powers as Jean, um, and yeah,
That's what I was gonna ask you. So did I know that there's in a lot of iterations, Sarah doesn't have powers, and it's just Jean that has them. But are there any versions where they both have powers?
I think Claremont maybe.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but people can look that up, but I'm pretty sure. Um, do you think we should wrap up, or do you want to? You're okay with going over 2 hours and maybe getting into some other characters
Yeah,
that
we
are
can do
briefly shown?
whatever.
Okay, cool. So, of course, in the trailer they showed a ton of characters, and we showed up briefly. We got Sheila Rivera, who shows up in Daredevil, and she's given the key to the city, the Spider-Man. We got this guy who plays MJ's nameless boyfriend. Some people have theories. Some people, they think they said his name in the movie might be Nate, since Ned mentions Nate Dogg at some point, but it might be about someone else different. It might be about this guy. But some people are like, maybe he's nameless on purpose since they're setting up Harry Osborn, which would be crazy because they're like, why would you cast an actor from a show like Ahsoka? I don't know where I land on this.
Why would they keep him nameless if they're planning on introducing Harry?
I agree.
Um, I feel like his name is Nate. There's like a guy in the comics, in Spider-Man comics, that is like very famously disliked, and I think he just died in the comics recently. And the writers came out and said like, "Don't worry, like he's gonna stay dead. There's no resurrections," and everybody's like, "Oh, thank God." And I feel like this guy's name was Nate. because when he popped up in the trailer, I feel like I remember seeing even like a Koi video being like, I wonder if he's playing Nate.
Keith David's another one whose voice popped up in the trailer, and people were heavily speculating he's going to be Jackal. He just turned out to be like the documentary narrator about spiders. And that's it.
That was I was like, I thought it sounded like Lawrence Fishburne for a second, but now it makes sense hearing that Keith David was going to
It's
be in
so
this movie.
funny how much people are speculating on this guy just for it to be like totally cut out of the movie. It seems like there might have been more they filmed that they cut out.
Yeah.
Boomerang, it's hard to see since I kind of blocked it with the warning symbol, but he's falling, and they're replicating that iconic cover. You got Tarantula pops up. He was in the trailer, and they're also recreating another iconic comic book cover in that opening montage. You got Tombstone popping up, another iconic comic book cover, and then Ramrod pops up in that opening montage.
Mm-hmm.
Tombstone and Ramrod were not in the trailer, but Boomerang and Tarantula were. And then you got Jean the Wolf as the detective, played by the woman from The Bear. Did you like her character in this movie?
Yes, a lot. I was a big fan of her in this movie. She kind of
Yeah,
reminded me of Yuri Watanabe, who is like another
yeah.
police
Isn't that
officer.
her successor in the comic?
Um, maybe.
Or they
I
work
know
together
Yuri. I know Yuri from the games. I haven't read anything
with
that
Jean?
had Yuri in it because she becomes. Because I know Yuri becomes the Wraith eventually, who's like an anti-hero. Um, he's either a villain or an anti-hero. I can't remember. But I didn't know too much about this character going into it, besides the fact that she was like a Yuri adjacent character. But if Yuri is the successor of her in the comics, then that makes a lot of sense.
Um, she either worked with Yuri and then until she died, and then I think Yuri took over or something like that. I think was the case.
Yeah.
Um, Besides that, we got Pat Kiernan, who's popped up in previous Spider-Man movies. He specifically, the screenshot that you see is from Far From Home, since he's the one who says the news of Mysterio disclosing Peter Parker's identity to the whole world. You see his voice in this movie um, once again, and apparently he showed up in other Marvel projects as well. He's a common thread in the MCU. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you see Flash Thompson in a photograph in Ned's room, and so you see Martin Starr as well. And then apparently Rosario Dawson was cut from this movie. Where do you think she was? Since there's two theories that I have of where she could have possibly been cut out.
She was probably at the hospital at the
That's one of
end
my
and had a scene
theories.
with Frank. Yeah.
My
Did
other
Frank and her
theory.
ever meet
Ooh, good
in the
question.
Daredevil show?
I have no clue. Great
Oh wait,
question.
I think was she not in an episode of Punisher as well in the first season?
Maybe.
I feel like she was also because I know she was in season one of Daredevil. She could have
Yeah, she
also popped
definitely
up in
was in
Punisher.
Daredevil as a nurse. And so people were like, was she cut out of the hospital scene? And then because there's too much to explain to the audience? Or was she in the montage where a ton of people were cut out? Um, um,
I don't know
that's
if she
kind
would
of,
have been in the beginning montage.
yeah, so maybe the hospital scene she was cut
Yeah.
out. Or maybe she helps heal Peter and that was cut out. Who knows?
Hmm.
Um, that's kind of it for the character breakdown. We could get into other stuff, but it would make us go over 2 hours. It's your choice of if you want to wrap up here or
No,
get
I don't
into more
mind.
stuff.
This is
Okay.
your show.
I mean, we could just talk about a little bit of the world building. Um, I mean, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko created these characters, and I feel like something we mentioned earlier is it really feels like a lived-in universe where a lot of like his characters, Spider-Man, Hulk from the Avengers and Jean Grey from X-Men, and like um, Punisher first popped up in Spider-Man, and even though he didn't create Punisher, he created Daredevil. Like you see a lot of the universes he created, whether it be Spider-Man, Avengers, or X-Men, all in like intertwined in this movie in such a cool way
Mhm.
that feels plausible. So it felt like a very Stan Lee movie, and
Yeah,
just I
I
like
agree.
New York as a character in this movie. I mentioned Roosevelt Island earlier. A lot of people are saying this is like the most saturated version of New York that we've ever seen in the franchise, the Spider-Man movies. What did you think of like the colors in this movie overall? The color
I
grading.
think I I really didn't mind it this time. I sometimes will talk about like boring gray color grading in movies, but I feel like they needed it in this movie to
The bright
it,
colors.
yeah, because the first three were so bright, and this is not as bright of a movie as the first three. So the grayscale served a good purpose, I think.
For sure. I really just like New York in this movie. There was the
Yeah.
tour bus scene that was really funny in the opening action sequence where the tank is rampaging through the city, and I like the use of the tour bus. We saw the tour bus in the trailer, but in this movie specifically, I just thought it was a very realistic thing because there are a ton of tour buses in Manhattan. It turned out it was not Rogue.
Yeah. I
Some people
wonder
were
if
being. I didn't think it was ever Rogue, but it was just
I
funny
didn't
that the
either.
girl looked like Rogue.
I wonder if
Um,
that was just supposed to like tease, like, oh, there's an X-Men coming in this movie.
um, Something that I thought was interesting about New York in this movie is when they're celebrating Spider-Man when he's in the hospital and they turn on the Empire State Lights.
Hmm.
State building lights. The reason I thought that was interesting is I remember months ago, before this movie came out, there was like a Spider-Man event at Empire State Building, and I'm like, are they gonna drop a trailer today? I'm like, why are they having a Spider-Man event today at Empire State Building? I was like, this is very weird. And then they made the lights like Spider-Man colored, and I was like, why did it do that? That seems very random. And then it popped up in this movie at the end of the movie. I was like, I finally know why the Empire State Building was Spider-Man colors. I'm like, they were literally filming the scene for this movie.
I feel like I remember seeing that on Twitter the day that it lit up like that too. Like I remember seeing that
It was
because
just
that felt
nice. I'm like,
familiar.
I can finally close that mystery in my head. I
Yeah,
forgot about it. I haven't thought about it in months, and I was
I
like,
can
oh
go
my
to sleep
god.
now.
Did
It's
did
funny.
did the sponsors distract you at all in this movie, or am I just like too hyper focused?
Oh, you mean like Liquid IV
Yeah,
and
liquid IV. Like I've been seeing
Little
those Spider-Man
Caesars?
liquid IV ads so much on YouTube. So when I saw liquid IV on like the bus stop or something like that, I was just like, oh my god. I feel like BMW was another one I saw. Since I keep seeing that ad on YouTube as well, the Spider-Man ad with the father and son, I think that was also shown in the background at one point. And then Tom Holland is like promoting his non-alcoholic beer,
Was there
Beero.
Bureau in the movie?
Yeah, in the convenience store scene.
Nice. I which one was I? My there's one that I specifically had a problem with, and it was Little Caesars. Like when Peter ordered a Little Caesars pizza, I was like, "You're from New York, dude. I heard New Yorkers aren't fond of ordering Papa John's and Domino's and Little
There are
Caesars."
those kinds of places though in New York still. And
Yeah.
like sometimes for like Super Bowl, I know it sounds awful, but I will order Domino's pizza even though I'm in New York City
Hey,
because I
I
just
still
want
like
junk
those.
pizza.
I still like fast food pizza. I messed up some Pizza Hut the other night and it was phenomenal. But
Something so that's what bothered you. Something that bothered me, and I said this off camera, is there was a Made in New York logo. When they film in New York City, they often work with a company called Made in New York, and there was a taxi with a Made in New York logo, and I'm like, why couldn't they cover that? I was so annoyed. I was just like, really? I was like, the production design people couldn't cover that logo? I'm like, seriously? It
yeah,
was just so distracting to me.
that's an easy cover up
I know,
too.
I was so upset with that. It's like, come on.
That's funny.
Um, I don't know. That was some of the world building stuff that I noticed. Anything you want to say about like New York or the world building before we
I
move on?
I think they did a really good job using New York and um because this movie was not filmed in New York. It was filmed in Glasgow, right?
Well, some of it, but again, like the Made in New York scene, I'm guessing had to be filmed in New York in order to
Yeah.
use that logo.
I figured like a lot of the drone shots, like especially that one, or like the shot of the Empire State Building, like they got like their drone shots and their establishing shots from there. But I didn't know if like any actors were on location in New York for this movie. So like they still like did a good job of like someone like me who knew all the behind the scenes of this movie, knowing where it was outside of New York. Did a good job convincing that it is still New York.
Um, Sorry, I kind of just clicked and said let's move on.
You're good.
Um, so was there anything else you wanted to say or
No,
no?
no, no.
Okay.
That was the last thing.
Okay, so I mean, we got to talk about the lingering questions. The X Men, we've kind of talked about like possible storylines for the future with the Inhibitor and who might show up again, like Tremel Tillman and Jean Grey, as played by Sadie Sink, will most likely show up again. Not most likely, is for sure showing up again. Um, what do you think is like the plan overall? Do you believe that that's going to be the next saga for sure? Like Infinity Saga, Multiverse Saga. Now we're gonna do a Mutant Saga.
I think so. I
I
think
agree.
it's long overdue. And I think you brought up earlier that they didn't say the word mutant in this movie.
Or
They
X
had
Men,
said something else. I wonder if it's because it's a Sony
for sure.
movie.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Is there other storylines do you think are set up in this movie that could show up again in the future for
I
X
think
Men?
the inhibitor is a big one. And
For
then
sure.
for Peter, I don't know if he's still going through like evolutions or mutations or transformations. Like I thought that they were gonna cover the man spider storyline in this movie, and maybe they already did, just without giving Peter the full transformation. Or I wonder if this was kind of the start of leading into Peter doing the man spider eventually.
We'll see. I don't know, but in regards to X Men, who who do you think is gonna play the? I mean, we got Samara Weaving announced as Emma Frost yesterday. We got Jean Grey. When do you think we'll be introduced to more? Like meeting, like when do you think we'll hear more casting? Do you think we're going to hear more at D23, or do you think it's going to slowly trickle as we're seeing with Samara Weaving? Do you think it's going to be Comic-Con next year? When do you think we're going to start hearing more?
I think Comic Con next year because
Or
I feel like
CinemaCon even?
yeah, that or because didn't they say they're gonna use D23 for the TV shows and then
I think
focus on
so,
movies at
yeah.
Comic Con or CinemaCon?
Yeah, after hearing Samara Weaving yesterday, I was predicting we might get news of D23 for X-Men, but now I'm less certain about it after the Samara Weaving news. I'm really excited for her casting. Can
Me
we
too.
This is like when I heard her cast, I literally was jumping. I'm like, this is as good casting as when I know people were not familiar with David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan when they were cast as Superman and Lois, but I was like, this is so good casting.
Hmm.
As someone who watches a lot of indie films, so I was familiar with both of them already and like TV shows with them, and I was like, and I feel the same about Samara as Emma Frost. I'm like, this is perfect. Such an improvement from January Jones.
It's
Um,
funny that you bring up Lois and Superman too, because I'm pretty sure Samara Weaving was also like one of the
I thought it was Emma
for
Mackey.
what's that?
Emma Mackey. Since people think Samara Weaving, Emma Mackey, and Margot Robbie all look the same, so I think Emma Mackey was in the final three for Lois Lane with Rachel Brosnahan and Phoebe Denevour.
Hmm, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't know if Samara was one of the lowest ones as well, or one of like the front runners as well.
I mean, I
Um,
get why you would think that since everyone
yeah,
thinks her and Emma Mackey and Margot Robbie all look the same.
I guess that makes
Um,
sense.
well, people kept saying for Emma Frost, they're gonna cast a Margot Robbie type most likely. So her being cast Samara seemed like such the obvious choice, and yet it didn't come to my head until yesterday. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, she's so perfect.
And I wonder if they reached out to Margot first and she just said no.
Who knows?
But no,
But
yeah, so this is a good casting.
who do you think should play the others, or are there names that you hear and are like, that person's most likely going to be it, and I might not like it, but they're probably going to be that person anyways?
There's one that I am really rooting for, and it's I saw a rumor a couple months ago talking about how Peter Claffey, who plays Duncan in Night of the Seven Kingdoms, is rumored to be playing Beast. And I was like, oh, that's perfect.
But now people are rumoring, because Jake Schreier is directing it, he did Thunderbolts and he worked on Beef. So people are, there's rumors now of Charles Melton, since he was in Beef season 2. Kaylee Spiney is being rumored for Rogue,
Mm-hmm.
among like so many other people. Like Indy Navarrete from Obsession is being rumored. Um, I know some people want like a Sophie Thatcher, or like an Odessa Azion, or like a Margaret Qualley in the role, but I don't think they're in talks in the way like Indy Navarrete is, who literally is speaking with the X-Men director, but she might be Mystique instead of Rogue. I don't
I
know.
think
There's so
she
many
would make
names
a
being
good.
thrown around right now
I
for
think
who
she
could
would
be the
make a good
X-Men in the
Mystique.
future. I know people are throwing around Cooper Hoffman, but he's like, no, I'm promoting my new movie. I'm not in talks. I don't know why people say that. Like, there's so many names being thrown around. I don't know what's real, what isn't. Um, Even like, I know like for Professor X, like Drew Starkey or like Bill Skarsgård is being considered. I have no.
Mm.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. And then Adam Driver is in the mix for Sinister, most likely. People were saying it was Magneto, but then now they're saying it's most likely Sinister. So we'll see what ends up happening.
I would
Um,
like Adam Driver to play Magneto personally.
um, I did see someone say they want the daughter from, what's the show? What's a Shrinking? The daughter from Shrinking and the girl
Yes.
from Backrooms to play Jubilee.
I didn't see Backrooms, but yes, the girl from Shrinking would make a great Jubilee, I think.
I agree. Anyone else not mentioned that is coming to your head for who's being considered, or who you would want to see as X Men?
I always liked the idea of Margot Qualley playing Rogue. Or Indy Navarrete. I think she would be good as Mystique or Rogue. I feel like it would be cool if she's playing Mystique, but I feel like the fact that she's saying that she wants to play Mystique or she would like to, I don't know if that
Yeah, it's kind of
means
like
she is, because
Cynthia
maybe she's trying to
Erivo.
throw us off.
Cynthia Erivo wants to play Storm, and Kiki Palmer wants to play Rogue. And then I know there's so many names being thrown around for Storm, like Jodie Smith Turner, or Jodie Turner Smith from Tron, and oh my God, Jamie Lawson from Sinners. Yeah, there's so many names being thrown
I wonder
around.
if they use
It's
Gambit
scrambling my head.
again when they reboot the X
Oh
Men.
yeah,
If they use
Austin
Gambit,
Butler. I know people
oh my god,
for Gambit.
that'd be perfect. That would be
We'll
so
see.
perfect.
We'll see what ends up happening. We might get news slowly trickled. We might get it at D23. Who
Yeah.
knows what the future holds for X Men?
I feel like new X Men could pop up in Secret Wars, so Comic Con
True.
next year
Like
would make
Jean
sense.
Grey. True.
Yeah.
We'll see. Do you want to move on from X Men and just Spider Man's future in general?
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about the post credit scene and our three different theories already on that. So, I don't know. Let's talk about. So, him and MJ are not together at the end of this movie. Do you
Hmm.
think they're going to get back together at some point? Do you think he's going to pursue someone else?
I don't think that they'll have him pursue anybody else just because of the situation of Tom and Zendaya already. She seems a little protective, so I don't think. I feel like Tom Holland would speak against giving Peter a new love interest. I think they're just gonna have MJ serve for now as like a supporting role and a friend to him, someone who like how she um like how she had the job of creating the inhibitor with him in this movie. I think she's going to serve more purposes like that throughout
So
until they eventually get back together, but I don't think it might not happen in the next movie, and if it does happen in the next movie, it's at the very end.
So you don't think they're setting up like Harry as with that guy, or a new love interest for Peter, like Black Cat in this photo or Gwen Stacy. I guess another question is, do you think um, he's gonna? When do you think he's gonna pass the baton? Do you think it's gonna be the next movie, or the movie after? To
I
Miles.
think I think Tom Holland has two more solo movies in him.
I agree. I think it's
I
gonna be a home trilogy, and then maybe a day trilogy.
I was hoping that there were going to be three trilogies because I feel like years ago I had heard rumors that the
I
plan
would
was
love
to give
that
him
too.
me too. If they did like the high school trilogy, the college trilogy, and then like his adult life
Yeah, I
trilogy.
want to see them grow as characters the way we do with like the Rocky franchise with like Rocky
Yeah.
and Adrian. I would love that.
Hmm.
That's part of why that's one of my favorite franchises.
Is Rocky?
Um, yeah, because you see them grow as a couple. That would be awesome
Hmm.
with MJ and Peter. Um, to see them grow as adults, but he does need to pass the baton at some point to
Yeah.
Miles, and he's teased it a lot during this press tour. So that's why I asked the question of not necessarily do you think he's gonna pass the baton, but like more so when do you think he's gonna pass it?
I think it's pretty inevitable to say that Miles will be in the MCU
Yeah,
eventually.
Donald Glover came back as Prowler
Hmm.
across the Spider Verse. That was animated, but he showed up live action in that.
Hmm.
So it's not like he's never gonna return. It's not like he's too busy to return.
Exactly.
We'll see what happens. Before we get into the last thing I want to talk about real quick, I do want to read this real quick. I don't the person who's saying I don't know the age for the X Men that they are going for. Um, they're going younger based on Jean Grey specifically. They're going younger because Sadie Sink is younger, and that's why I said I don't think Margot Qualley is as likely for Rogue as someone like as Kaylee Spaney or Odessa Azion, because they're closer to the age that Sadie Sink is.
Hmm.
Do you have anything to add to that, or do you want to move on?
I do think that they're gonna stick with the younger ones. It's just like every time you hear a rumored casting about who's gonna be a new X-Men. I mean, besides Samara, I don't know how old she is, but I feel
She's
like
like
every
32, I think, is what I heard yesterday.
so I feel like that's
But that makes sense for
older.
Emma.
Yeah, for Emma it makes sense, but I feel like that's slightly older than what they're going for because anytime a rumored casting pops up, it's
For
always
sure.
somebody between like 22 and 28. Like
Yeah,
they're
Samara
casting to have
Weaving is
them.
34, but like Sadie is like 24 or
Yeah.
26. Yeah, 24. So you need younger to fit with that. That's why I said I love Margaret Qualley. I don't think she's playing Rogue. I think a
Yeah.
Kaylee Spaney or a Odessa Azion. I think Sophie Thatcher should be in the mix, but she's not, which is crazy to me
Yeah.
because she's worked with Disney before for Boba Fett. So the fact that her name is not popping up more is crazy to me. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Um, anyways, um, I guess the last thing I want to say, these are all like the famous comic covers we talked about earlier that they replicate during the opening montage.
And they
Um,
did well with it too.
just
Especially the
overall,
tarantula.
um, what just storylines or characters from the comics do you think were used well? Um, or from
Um
animation or video games or whatever.
I feel like the biggest thing that I noticed out of this movie was the Insomniac video games. Like um a lot of the action sequences had those finishing moves in there. those games are very, very grounded, and they kind of like establish Peter's relationship with the police, and how there's always like the one captain or detective that kind of serves as like the Jim Gordon-esque character for Spider-Man. As far as comics, I was reading a lot of the Brand New Day era before this came out. One thing that I did think was going to happen in this movie that ended up not happening was Mr. Negative.
Yep, a lot
I
of people were saying that because he's in Brand New Day.
Yeah, he's the big villain of the Brand New Day book and the first PlayStation Spider-Man game. And I didn't know a whole lot about him until I played that first game, but he instantly became one of my favorite Spider-Man villains after that game. There's so much to him. I think it would be really smart to use him down the line.
Okay, interesting. So you feel like the game was the thing that was utilized utilized well, was well utilized the most here. Sorry,
Yes,
that was horrible
100%.
grammar, but you get what
Oh
I
no,
mean.
you're fine.
What I guess my last question is, what do you think was like mischaracterized or misinterpreted or wasted here, storyline or character wise?
Um, I don't want to say Gene because I'm not the most educated on Gene, but I just feel like the whole like Dark Phoenix. I don't know if they are trying to set that up now or not, but that doesn't happen until way later in Gene's
I
story.
agree, but I think part of why the Dark Phoenix storyline hasn't worked in the past is because they haven't set it up well.
Yeah,
So I think to
exactly.
show she has a darkness in her the way like Scarlet Witch does, and her constantly battling between that good and that bad side, I think could be an interesting through line going forward.
And they do have her like lighten up a little bit towards the end of the movie. Like she's clearly not the villain.
But yeah, she's the key reason I asked this question. Do you think anyone was mischaracterized or
Yeah.
misinterpreted or wasted? And
Well,
then
in the
wasted, I was like, do you think Scorpion was wasted or like another character?
I just the whole thing with Scorpion, like again,
Or
like as long as
Tombstone?
he's not done, then I think he was used fine. But
Agree. I agree
like
with you.
he could kind of serve as like what Killian Murphy's Scarecrow served as in the
True.
Dark Knight trilogy, you know?
Good point.
But yeah, I just we need I Jean Grey fans are not happy because
I know. Yeah.
they think they're going 0 for 3 on Jean, and
I
they
mean,
just
to be fair, I'm not concerned, but to be fair, they have botched Scarlet Witch, for instance, which
yeah,
had a similar trajectory, and and we don't know if we're ever gonna have her return at this point in time,
I
Elizabeth
think she
Olsen.
will.
So, man,
I think she will.
we'll see.
I think um I think she's gonna be in Doomsday or Secret Wars. I think she'll be like one of the Latvian witches.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that later this year if we do a live stream for
Yeah.
that. I think the next one we'll most likely do a live stream for, like a breakdown similar to this, is probably Clayface,
Mm-hmm.
since I think both of us are excited for that movie.
Oh yeah.
That's basically it for now, unless there's one last thing you want to say.
A plus movie. What is your star rating?
Um, I gave it like an 8 out of 10. This movie, it's a
Yeah.
great movie.
Same. Yeah, I did like 4.5 out of 5 stars. That's what I gave it. Definitely my favorite Tom movie. I don't know if it was
Some
my
Yeah,
favorite Spider-Man. Maybe. I don't know. It's too soon to tell. But it's
some
in like my
people,
top
yeah,
3 or 4.
some people are like it's in their top 10 of the year movie wise. I'm like, I don't know about that. When movies like The
Mm.
Odyssey and The Invite exist, I'm like, I don't know if I can put it in my number one. I'm like,
So
that's a bit crazy.
I've only seen 13 movies this year, which is not a very high number for me. So I currently have Spider-Man at my number 4 spot, behind Odyssey, Obsession, and the Peaky Blinders movie. I have to
Yeah,
see the invite though. That's on my list.
I
And then
mean, I
same with the
think that's a
drama.
whole nother rant. Okay, to respond to this comment, I was not. This is Spider-Man 2 did not come out before I was born. Um,
Yeah, I got Spider-Man 2 on DVD like when it came out. I think I saw it in theaters.
X-Men will definitely most likely be Gen Z based on Sadie's saying, but to be like to condescendingly say it was before we were born, it was not. I'm like
And
I can
also
confirm it was not.
Spider-Man 2 is number 1 on my list of like all Spider-Man.
With Doc Ock.
Yeah.
As we
It's
mentioned before, I mean, you're still seeing storylines and things set up from that movie with the inhibitor device coming
mhm.
back to this movie. So, there's a lot. Um, so, since we're wrapping up now, I will say I hope everyone had fun listening to Matt and I discuss Spider Man in depth. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Leave comments sharing your thoughts, especially your favorite Spider Man movie. Maybe it's Spider Man 2, like Matt.
Holds a
Um,
special place in my heart.
if you'd like to see more content from me, I post short movie reviews on this YouTube channel as well as TikTok and Instagram, and I do out of the theater reactions for movies like Spider Man Brand New Day. The next Red Carpet Talk live stream will be next Saturday, um, covering New York movies, which is somewhat connected to today, since I think this is a very solid New York movie. I
Yeah.
still think Homecoming is my favorite in regards to New York because you got Coney Island, you got Governor's Island, and oh my god, there's another. Oh, the Staten Island Ferry. I love how all of those New York pieces are used in that movie. Um, please let me know what other topics you want to see me cover next in the comments below. Matt, is there anything you'd like to plug real quick?
I was gonna say really quick too. You would, a big New York person, you would love the Spider-Man games because the map
I
is
keep
just
hearing that.
so
Yeah.
on par to New York. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, you can find me at Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Krugenauts. I don't have a lot up yet on my YouTube, but I've been posting comic reviews on my and ratings on my Instagram and TikTok. But I will have more soon on the YouTube. But yeah, everywhere at Krugenauts.
I will say, in regards to the Insomniac game, that um, I do hear the map is a little wonky, but like the games are good.
In the
And I know
first game, a little bit.
yeah, Wolverine is coming out next. To answer this question real quick before we wrap, any other Stranger Things actors do you think will be in Marvel? Oh,
Yeah.
um,
And
I mean Joseph Quinn is already in Fantastic Four. Um, my guess, I think he's a very underrated actor. Okay, there's two choices. I can either go Maya Hawke, who's in a lot recently. She has a movie called One Night Only coming out this month that I saw weeks ago. Um, she's in a lot of movies right now, but I don't know who she would be. Or I can go in regards to like male. Besides Joseph Quinn, I think Dacre Montgomery is really underrated. He was awesome in Faces of Death. That's a very underrated horror movie. He's so scary in that. He creeped
that's,
me out. He's
I'd have to
such a
look
good
into that
actor.
one.
He
He'd
played
had
the
something
Red
else come out.
Ranger. He played the Red Ranger in Power Rangers.
That's right. He had something else come out the beginning of this year too, didn't he? With
Maybe.
it was him and another big actor. It was like a hostage situation type of movie.
Oh, I don't know that. Oh,
Yeah,
actually, no, I don't.
it's killing me because I really wanted to see it.
Who do you think
Can't
could
remember the
come from
movie.
Stranger Things? I mean,
I
David
think,
Harbour. David Harbour is our
yeah.
Red Guardian.
I think it's kind of shocking that Sean Astin hasn't had like a small role in Marvel.
Good point.
Also, who Caleb is that his name?
Was Dead Man's War the movie?
Yes, that's what it was. Dead Man's
Yeah,
Wire.
I think the reason I was confused is I associate that more as a 2025 movie. But you were saying
Oh, it was
Caleb?
last year. Yeah, he
Well, it was
that's
limited release,
that,
but it went wide release in January this year. So I get
okay,
why you
that
thought
makes
it was this year.
sense.
But anyways, you said Caleb for Miles?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Because he's very vocal about wanting to play Miles Morales, and he's said a bunch of times that he loves Spider-Man, and he's a huge fan of Marvel, and he's a big Miles fan. Like, I think he's kind of petitioning himself to play Miles, and I
Yeah,
think that the audience in the studios are kind of hearing him, eating it
we'll
up.
see. I mean, a lot of people also want someone who's Afro Latino to play Miles as well. I don't know if he's Latino, is the thing. That's my
Mm-hmm.
only thing about him playing Miles.
That's true.
Um, yeah, you're right about Sean Astin. And yeah, who knows? Maya Hawke could pop up. Like, what's her name? Who popped up in Fantastic Four from Poker Face? Natasha Lyonne. Like, she could. Maya Hawke can pop up in a role like that. Who knows?
Hmm.
Or Dacre could be creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, so you'd rather see Dacre as a villain over a
He's so
hero?
good as a. No, I can do both. I just want him in more stuff, period. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, I want more young, popular actors like him to play villains more often because they do get a lot of, like, they are just a lot of, like, good guy protagonist relatable roles for the actors like them, and I want to see them branch out and play bad guys.
Okay. Well, I know this was a long stream, but there was a lot for us that needed to be covered. And I
Mhm.
think we could have wrapped up sooner, but I think there was still stuff we wanted to get into that we did. But this has been fun. Uh, have a good night, everyone.
You as well.